game of the week as the NBA and NBC continues. The Detroit Pistons and the Minnesota Timberwolves, both teams with playoff aspirations. As we take a quick look at the starting lineups, the featured matchup today, two of the youngest and biggest superstars in the NBA, Grant Hill and Kevin Garnett, matched against each other. Brian Williams and Stanley Roberts will tip it off. They are the center matchup. As you take a look at Kevin Garnett, 6'11", 220, the young superstar for the T-Wolves. As the Pistons control the tip, Grant Hill, and matched up right away, Dan Issel, by Kevin Garnett.
Well, this will be the featured matchup, and both these young players, very athletic and very complete players. It'll be an interesting matchup and have a lot to do with the outcome of the game.
They work it inside to Brian Williams, whose left-handed hook is off the mark. Garnett clears it up to Stephon Marbury. Marbury picked up by Lindsey Hunter inside to Stanley Roberts. He turns on Brian Williams and misses it. Sam Mitchell can't get the follow, and it's out of bounds the other way.
It's very interesting. Both teams went to the center matchup, their first offensive play. I think they both think they have an advantage here. Brian Williams very quick in the low post. Stanley Roberts a big presence in the low post.
Well, the frustrating season continuing for the Pistons, although they have won 3 of their last 4 games, picking up the last win and the win against Cleveland on Friday night as Grant Hill is off the mark. Ball is still loose, and Lindsey Hunter is there to pick up the free one.
Great anticipation by Lindsey Hunter, who has a big job in front of him today, shutting down Stephon Marbury, at least keeping Stephon on the perimeter.
Kevin Garnett at the top of the key, hands it off to Marbury, slashes through the lane, and Marbury gets the T-Wolves on the board for the first time.
And Dan, that's what Marbury does best. He gets to the paint, he either scores or dishes. It doesn't make any difference to him. Detroit's got to keep him outside, make him take the long jump shot.
Stephon Marbury just turned 21 years old a couple of weeks ago. Lindsey Hunter, this one for 2, way off the mark. Williams, the leading rebounder for the Pistons, is there to kick it out to Dumars, and the veteran is off the mark. Williams again with a rebound, leading Detroit, averaging better than 9 rebounds a game, and paying dividends there.
Yeah, and you see his quickness inside. Stanley Roberts is going to have to keep a body on Brian Williams.
Grant Hill has it knocked away. Marbury streaking to the hoop the other way. Reed with a board for Detroit.
Great hustle defensively by Grant Hill.
Dumars for 3. Joe Dumars in his 13th year, and after all these years, still a threat.
He's shooting 34% from the three-point line this year. You've got to make sure you know where Joe Dumars is.
9:40 left in this opening quarter. Stanley Roberts, who had a workout against Shaquille O'Neal Friday night when the Lakers came and beat the T-Wolves. Terry Porter, another veteran, this time for the T-Wolves.
Well, that's our veteran matchup lineup today. Dumars versus Porter. Both players really influential in the young locker rooms, but they can both still play the game.
Dumars and Porter came into the league 13 years ago at the same time. They did meet in the NBA Finals when Porter was a member of the Portland Trailblazers. Nice soft hook in the lane by Grant Hill.
Even though Stanley Roberts is a big presence, he's really not a shot-blocking threat, so you'll see Detroit slashing to the basket, especially Grant Hill.
Garnett from the outside, short. Roberts fighting for the board, and tipped to Lindsey Hunter. The Detroit Pistons have been woeful on the road all season long, posting an 8-19 record, and they have won just 1 of their last 8 road games.
And that's unusual because Detroit's a veteran team, and usually veteran teams do okay on the road.
Porter through the middle with another bucket. And we're tied at 7. Terry Porter, who has a streak of games going. He's played all 82 games the past 2 seasons in his first 2 with the Minnesota Timberwolves as Grant Hill is on the mark, and still has yet to miss a game this year.
Oh, we talked about the complete player that Grant Hill is. He's already shown it, taking it to the hoop and then shooting the perimeter jump shot.
Stanley Roberts left wide open for a moment, and how about that? Little finger roll by the big 7-footer.
Right, it makes you wonder what Stanley could do if he ever got in great shape. He's in better shape right now than he has been most of his career, but I still think he's got a ways to go.
Plagued by injuries in his 7-year NBA career. From the outside again is Dumars for 3. his second three-pointer. He's got an early 6.
Alvin Gentry, the coach of the Pistons, telling us that moving the line back has hurt his team, but it hasn't hurt Joe Dumars so far this afternoon.
Lindsey Hunter took a gamble and nearly stole it. But the T-Wolves, with 5 seconds on the shot clock, they work it to the other side to Garnett, over to Mitchell from the baseline for 2 at the shot clock buzzer.
Sam Mitchell, one of those players that's going to have to pick up the slack from the absence of Tom Gugliotta, and Sam Mitchell has always been a solid offensive threat. If you give him the open jump shot, he's going to drain it. Mitchell in that spot for Gugliotta, who's having ankle surgery in New York on Tuesday. He is gone for the year, so the T-Wolves try to survive without their leading scorer as Grant Hill is getting off early. He's got 3 buckets and 6 points. The first time these two teams met in December, Grant Hill went for 27 points, and it looks like he's on his way to that total today. Garnett can't hang on to the basketball. 6:39 left in the opening quarter from the Target Center, where veteran Terry Porter and the T-Wolves try to stay in it.
Is brought to you by Miller Lite, who reminds you that anything can happen at Miller Time. By the U.S. Navy. Navy, let the journey begin. And by Genuine Chevrolet, the car's more American trust.
Snowy first day of March in downtown Minneapolis, but cozy here in the confines of the Target Center. Dan Hicks with Dan Issel, and the Minnesota Timberwolves in a much better position in the Western Conference playoff picture, but the Pistons continuing a frustrating season. It really has been a frustrating season, and the reason, Dan, as you said earlier, they haven't been able to win on the road, but they still are in the playoff hunt, and they just have to start winning some road games, and this is a winnable road game for them today. And we've talked about the early matchups between Kevin Garnett and Grant Hill. It's Grant Hill off to the good start with 6 points, although Garnett has pulled down 3 rebounds. And the Pistons holding a 3-point lead, 14-11. Garnett already with 4 assists as well. Brian Williams has his pocket picked by Porter. And Marbury sets up the Minnesota offense. Into Garnett, quickly double team. Mitchell down the lane, leaves it for Roberts, and Roberts with an off-balance right-handed shot. He's got 4. The Timberwolves have been struggling shooting the ball. In the last 11 games, they're only shooting 42.5% from the field. If they can get something out of Roberts inside, that'll be a real bonus this afternoon. And when you talk to the T-Wolf players and the coach, Flip Saunders, they said if there's any kind of weakness on this team now, especially with Gugliotta out, it is the center position. But Roberts looking pretty strong, picks up the foul there as Don Reed gets the bucket. What a beautiful pass inside by Joe Dumars as well. Dumars had the ball along the baseline, and he goes behind his back away from the double team, and Reed lays it in, and now he'll go to the line, a chance to complete the 3-point play. Don Reed, second-round draft pick out of Georgetown in '95. The same year when Kevin Garnett was picked the 3rd overall. And completes the 3-point play. 17-13, Pistons on top. Biggest lead of the game so far. Kevin Garnett, turnaround against Reed, can't get it to go. Rebound, Stanley Roberts, can't get it to go, but the follow is good. This is as well as I've seen Stanley Roberts play in his career. The first year in Orlando, he had a nice season, but the last couple of weeks, he's playing very well for the Timberwolves. He's got 6 points already. Grant Hill off the mark. Nice tip by Reed. And that's what Reed does. He's not going to be flashy. He's not going to be shooting jump shots. He works hard on the inside. Mitchell not a very good job of keeping him off the board that time. Reed with 5 points early. Garnett trying to get on the board for the first time and does. So versatile. And that's the shot that he said when he first came into the league, he was afraid to shoot. He was more of an inside player, but that outside shot starting to develop for Kevin Garnett. Well, there's the age-old matchup. Dumars working against Terry Porter, fights his way across the screen. Dumars looking for some help now, clears it out to Hunter. Hunter takes Marbury down the lane, dumps it out to the veteran Mahorn, who's off the mark as the shot clock buzzer sounds.
Yeah, Mahorn knew he had to take that shot. The 24-second clock was about to run out.
And Lindsey Hunter will be called for the blocking foul on Marbury.
Go back and look at the inside play. Mahorn and Stanley Roberts. Stanley misses the first time, but with the left hand tips it in the second time. And at the other end, Mitchell not putting a body on Don Reed. Reed with the tip in.
Checking into the game, Jerry Stackhouse for the Detroit Pistons. Again, a new role for him with Detroit, coming off the bench. Anthony Peeler also in the game for Minnesota. The ball is loose. Cherokee Parks, who's just checked in, can't get it either. Anthony Peeler, a new addition to the T-Wolves. Playing in just his 5th game with Minnesota. Stackhouse is off the mark, and Parks clears for the T-Wolves.
You saw what Grant Hill can do, penetrating and dishing off to an open man.
Three-pointer way off the mark by Marbury, who is really, you talked about the shooting walls earlier, he's been cold as Reed collides with Marbury on the other end.
Marbury only shot 39% from the floor for the month of February, and he gets inside and gets a lot of easy shots, Dan, which shows he's not shooting well from the perimeter at all.
Coming into this game, the T-Wolves were 3 for 22 from three-point land the last 2 games. Garnett gets loose, and he's got 4.
And you could see that one coming because the Detroit defense on the weak side didn't recover very quickly, and Kevin quickly got to the hoop for the throwdown.
Squares it at 19. T-Wolves have never had the lead thus far. 3:14 left. Hunter down the baseline. Stackhouse can't get the driving lane. And Garnett to Marbury. Beautiful move by Marbury, but he lost his balance going up. Well, here's one reason why they pay Kevin Garnett. Well, he'll begin to earn a $126 million contract next season. Marbury providing the assist there. Back in a moment. Squared at 19. Dan Hicks with Dan Issel back in Minneapolis as Minnesota and Detroit tied at 19. A picture of Lisa Milwaukee from St. Olaf College back in the early 80s, and she is the 3rd member of our broadcast team. A power center, I would presume, Lisa, at 5'11".
Absolutely a power center, Dan. I knocked them all out of the way. It's great to be here, and it's a lot of fun to be back in Minnesota. I'm here to talk about a couple of guys who are coming off the bench, including newcomer Anthony Peeler, who is on the court right now. He made his Minnesota debut a week ago tonight here at the Target Center. He scored 16 points. He came to Minnesota from Vancouver, and he told me today that the day he landed in Minneapolis was almost better than the day he was drafted by the Lakers back in 1992. On the Detroit side, Jerome Williams has been playing exceptionally well. We need to look for him. He scored 17 points versus the Cavaliers on Friday, including he had 12 rebounds, including 11 in the decisive second half. He's compared to Dennis Rodman, but Dan, he says he hasn't changed his hair color, and he doesn't plan to, so the comparisons land. Stay on the court. Back to you.
It is refreshing to hear that, Lisa. A legend here in the Minnesota area. And as you take a look at Alvin Gentry. And a look just a moment ago at Stackhouse's first bucket.
Yeah, and again, he can put the ball on the floor, take it to the hole, and that was a very difficult shot that he got to go that time.
21-19, Detroit up by a bucket. As we approach the 2-minute mark in the first quarter, Garnett with a lob pass to Parks, who runs right into Mahorn, who clears it. And Stackhouse on a loose against Peeler, gets tangled up, and Peeler will pick up the personal.
And again, the first couple of shots Stackhouse took from the outside didn't go, so a veteran move is he's decided to take it to the hole. Brian Williams checking back in the game.
Well, it was a much talked about trade, Dan, when Jerry Stackhouse was brought over by Philadelphia. He was the 3rd overall pick a few years ago. He was acquired by trading Theo Ratliff, who is thriving in Philadelphia right now. Also involved in the trade, Aaron McKee, and they also got Eric Montross in the deal. But here's a guy who's a little disappointed. He would like to start, but he's coming off the bench.
Well, the reason he'd like to start is he wants to showcase his talents, because remember, he'll be a free agent at the end of this year, and not all that certain that he will re-sign with the Pistons.
Marbury's double team. They give it to Garnett. And quickly inside to Tom Hammonds, who gets the roll.
Tom Hammonds, another one of those veteran players out of Georgia Tech that's good both on the floor and in the locker room. And down low with his quickness, as you just saw, he can do some damage.
And you had a chance to coach him in your coaching days with Denver.
And he's one of the best guys I've ever coached.
Brian Williams working on Roberts.
And there's that quickness inside. I think if they continue to explore that matchup, I don't think that Roberts has the quickness to stay with Brian Williams.
And the Pistons would like to have Williams for the full complement of this game as Garnett hits the jumper. He's got 6. Brian Williams has fouled out of the last 2 games for Detroit. In fact, he fouled out in just 25 minutes of playing time against Cleveland Friday night.
Which might be why Alvin Gentry has already had him out of the game for a short stint.
Seconds left in this opening quarter. Grant Hill working against Garnett. It's an intriguing matchup because you've got a guy in Grant Hill, 6'8", can do it all, but then you've got Kevin Garnett at 6'11", who can handle anybody.
And with his wingspan, he's more like a 7'1" fella. But Grant Hill, so difficult. You saw him taking it to the hole, and he's almost impossible to stop one-on-one.
Well, Hill, like he has done, leading the team in scoring each of the first 3 seasons, leads the Pistons this year with 21 points, playing a lot of minutes. And a scouting report on him is compiled by you, Dave.
Yeah, he's a great playmaker. He can get to the hoop. He's also an outstanding rebounder for his side. What you have to do is you have to make Grant Hill give up the ball early in the offense. If you let him play with it, he'll either get an open shot or get to the hole.
Less than 40 seconds left in the first quarter. Pistons with a 1-point advantage, 24-23. 7 seconds on the shot clock, and Minnesota still well out on the perimeter. Anthony Peeler is short, and the Pistons will have a chance.
The reason they were on the perimeter, Dan, is because Detroit went to a little half-court trap and made the ball stay out front for a long time.
Well, this ought to be fun. Grant Hill and Kevin Garnett as we close the first quarter. Hill working on Garnett. Bounce pass to Stackhouse, gets away. And it goes the other way, although Hill is complaining that it went off of Kevin Garnett's foot.
And I think he's got a good complaint.
End of the first quarter in Minneapolis. Detroit with a 1-point lead, 24-23. A look at the forward comparison. Hill and Garnett, 6 points apiece. Garnett doing the job on the boards as well.
You're watching the NBA on NBC.
Look at the leading scorers as we get set for the start of the second quarter. Dumars, the veteran, and Grant Hill with 6 points for Detroit. Garnett, who began this game 0 for 2 since then, has gone 3 for 3, has 6 points. And Stanley Roberts, the big guy, has been impressive.
He really has, and if he continues to play like that with 6 points and 4 rebounds, 2 of them on the offensive end, I think Detroit's going to be in this game.
It was an interesting matchup between Stanley Roberts out of LSU. He took on Shaquille O'Neal, one of his old teammates at LSU, on Friday night. And we watched Shaq score 35 and get the better of his old college teammate. Anthony Peeler off the mark on the 3-point attempt. Brian Williams clears for the Pistons.
Oh, Peeler happy to be here in Minnesota. Of course, he had the 16-point game his first time out, followed by 9 Friday against the Lakers.
Very Stackhouse slashing to the hoop. Can't get it to go. Marbury pushing it up. And Peeler has his shot blocked by Seeley. Hammonds with a wild hook. And the ball is out of bounds off the hands of Brian Williams, so the T-Wolves will keep it.
And the officials really letting them play. There was a lot of contact on Stackhouse down at the other end of the floor, and I think the reason Tommy Hammonds threw that ball up is because he thought he was fouled.
Well, checking into the ball game for Minnesota is Chris Carr, who is back from a left ankle sprain just last week. He came off the injury list after missing nearly a month. And he dishes it to Marbury, who's off the mark off the glass, and back to the other way we go.
And Marbury picks himself up off the floor, so you've got to be a man to go in the paint today.
Minnesota shooting just 39%. They have been shooting just 43% since the All-Star break, so not shooting well and not having Tom Gugliotta in the lineup. They have not been in games as much as in the past. Wild shot there. Stackhouse. Marbury's pass stolen by Williams.
Yeah, when you try to make a bounce pass all the way across the floor, you better have some room because it doesn't get there quite as fast as if you're just passing the ball directly.
Pistons with a 1-point lead. Stackhouse, 1 of 6 from the field. He is ice cold as he's way off on that three-point.
He really has been. His outside jump shots haven't been close, Dan. The one shot that he did make was when he took it hard to the basket.
We talked with him yesterday, and he said that, well, he said teams know what I can do. They know that I can score 20 points a game, as he had a good scoring average while in Philadelphia. Chris Carr is off the mark, but so far Jerry Stackhouse is, for a guy that's going to be a free agent, maybe he's not playing as well as he should.
Well, and I think some of these young free agents to be see the contracts that have been given out with people like Kevin Garnett and are putting an awful lot of pressure on themselves to perform well.
A cold beginning to this second quarter. And Jerome Williams, timeout on the floor, as Detroit is 0 for 4, Minnesota 0 for 5.
BC is brought to you by Bud Light. For the great taste that won't fill you up and never lets you down, make it a Bud Light. By Foot Locker. Nobody gets you closer to the game than Foot Locker, where it all begins. And by the full line of vehicles from Mitsubishi, built for living.
Back at the Target Center, as you take a look at Alvin Gentry, 5 and 6 since taking over for the fired Doug Collins on February 1st, and he's found out very quickly that life is very different as the head man.
We laugh about it all the time because as an assistant, you can make all of these great suggestions, and if they work, you can tell everyone, you know, yeah, I made that suggestion, and if they don't work, you know, you just blame it on the head coach. So I guess I'm getting a little taste of that now, too. But it's enormous pressure when you move one seat over.
And the fact that he is 5 and 6 a little misleading because he has had losses at Miami, at Chicago, at San Antonio, and at Houston, so a tough schedule.
Chris Carr gets the open jumper.
And a lot of people have talked about Gugliotta's absence the month of February, Dan, but I think Chris Carr was missed as well, being out with that ankle injury. He's averaging over 10 points a game for the T-Wolves.
And he gives the T-Wolves their first lead of the game, as it comes about 3 minutes into the second quarter. Brian Williams fakes left, goes right, and can't get it to go in over Stanley Roberts. Carr with a 3-on-1, and the feed to Porter.
And a great job by Carr running the big break. He kept the ball until Dumars had to commit defensively to come and pick him up. Then he dropped it off for the easy basket to Porter.
7 points for the 13-year veteran Terry Porter.
During the month of February, Dan, Porter averaged 15 points a game, so he's trying to take up some of that slack that Gugliotta's absence has created. And here's Carr running the break. Watch Dumars back on the back now. He makes Dumars commit to him defensively, and once Joe does, it's an easy layup for Porter.
Chris Carr back from the ankle sprain, and then Had to sit out the final 18 games last year with bursitis in the left ankle. The Stackhouse at the line, who was just fouled, and 1 of 5 for Jerry early.
Yeah, and the thing that has to be bothering Stackhouse is those 2 long shots weren't even close.
27-26, Minnesota up.
Again, the half-court zone trap by Detroit.
Jerome Williams working on Anthony Peeler. They swing it to the other side of Cherokee Parks. He feeds Hammonds, backs in. And rebound by Jerome Williams. And you heard Lisa earlier in the game mentioned how he has really been emerging for Detroit, especially in rebounds. He's averaged 9 rebounds the last 4 games. He's got 3 today. As Seeley can't connect.
Brian Williams called for the foul, reaching over the back of Cherokee Parks, and he's probably lucky he didn't get a technical foul there because he slammed the ball to the court as soon as the call was made.
Still just the first personal on Brian Williams. As we mentioned earlier, he's fouled out of the last 2 contests. Chris Carr, jumper running in the lane. And Chris Carr with a couple of baskets here in the second quarter. He's got 4 points, 29-26. The T-Wolves lead is 3.
Dumars running the show now, trying to do a little more of that, taking some of the ball handling responsibilities away from Grant Hill.
Jerome Williams fakes Hammonds, gets him up in the air, but they call traveling on Williams.
Go back to the other end and see this basket by Carr as he took the ball right to the middle of the floor, and pretty tough running jump shot, but it finds nothing but net.
Flip Saunders says that Chris Carr is a long way away from being the player that he once was. A former starter for this team, played just 5 minutes on Friday night.
Stackhouse has done something to his left shoulder, it looked like. You saw the grimace on his face and holding the left shoulder.
You see how cold Detroit has been in this quarter as Seeley gets fouled on his way to the hoop. And there is a look at Stackhouse, who does seem to be grimacing. And now they are rubbing his left shoulder.
Well, he'd have an excuse if it was his right shoulder.
How perceptive of you, Dan. Malik Seeley, the only Piston to play every game. And as you take a look at the NBC Sports Online, the NBA's official website lets you go one-on-one with a different NBA star each Monday. Tomorrow you can chat live with Jermaine O'Neal, who recently posted career highs in points and rebounds for the surging Trailblazers. He'll be online to answer your questions at 6 Eastern Time, only on NBA.com.
Happened to see that game against the Denver Nuggets when O'Neal went off.
We'll take a break.
Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Timberwolves lead by 1 in the second quarter. I'm Lisa Wolofsky, and joining me now, Vice President of Basketball Operations for the Minnesota Timberwolves, Kevin McHale, an old buddy of mine from Hibbing, Minnesota. Kevin, you've been in charge here for 3 years now. You brought in some great young talent, but you lost one of them. Tom Gugliotta is out now for the rest of the season. Your team still actually trying to find its identity without him.
Yeah, it's going to take us a little bit of time. You know, we've got a rough part of the schedule, too, playing some very good teams, and not having Tommy really hurts us. But the young guys have to step up, be more time to be distributed. Hopefully this will make us a better team next year.
Well, Kevin, everyone in the Timberwolves operation talks about Tom returning next season, but Tom, in fact, has an opportunity to become a free agent, as does Stephon Marbury. How committed are the Timberwolves to keeping this young nucleus together?
Well, we're trying to win a championship. That's what we're all about here. So, I mean, we're committed to keeping them together. And, you know, we can sign Steph this summer with the rookie clause. He's under contract next year. Tommy can opt out this year. But, you know, cross all those bridges when we get to it. I normally don't worry about things I can't control.
Thanks a lot for joining us, Kevin. Back to you, Stan.
Thanks, Lisa. Garnett not able to get it to go down as the Pistons trail by 1, 29-28. Well, Kevin McHale, you talk about all the signings that they're trying to get maybe Stephon Marbury with 1 year left on his contract. Is he gone with such a huge contract already given to Garnett? What about the coach, Flip Saunders, who, after taking the team to the playoffs last year, they rewarded him with a 5-year deal?
Well, I'm always happy to see the coaches get rewarded, Dan. I think they ought to take care of the coaches before the players. Inside, Garnett with an easy look at the basket, but couldn't get it to go down.
Brian Williams backing in on Cherokee Parks, and the quick turnaround. And an illegal defense called against Minnesota. Well, the Gugliotta injury, this team was really on a roll before losing Tom Gugliotta. 11-3, 5-9 since. Their field goal percentage has dwindled, as has their point production, as Brian Williams gets a nice bucket.
Well, you're going to see a veteran move here, Dan, because the Timberwolves are not double teaming. They're letting Parks guard Brian Williams by himself in the low post. And if Brian will be patient, make good moves, I don't think that Parks can guard him down there. And quickly, Stanley Roberts back into the lineup. Parks will return to the bench.
Speaking of contracts, Brian Williams with a new 7-year, $45 million contract with Detroit. You coached him in Denver when he was a Nugget. What kind of guy is he?
He's a terrific guy, and last year he sat out almost the whole year. Remember, he went to the Bulls, 9 games left in the regular season, then got a championship ring with the Bulls, and his play there in Chicago got him the contract in Detroit.
Sam Mitchell, the veteran, in his 9th year, hits for Minnesota, and Mitchell has 4. Sam Mitchell again taking the spot for Tom Gugliotta.
And he's not going to replace all of Gugliotta's points, but he's a pretty good offensive player.
Nice feed by Williams to Williams. Jerome back to Brian, and in and out. Nice ball movement there, though, between the two Williamses.
And it got Brian Williams a wide-open jump shot. He tried to kiss it off the glass just a little too hard.
Chris Carr still in the ballgame for Minnesota, getting some pretty good minutes. Nice fade away by Mitchell.
And the thing about Sam Mitchell is when he gets on a roll, he can light it up in a hurry. He can go for periods when you don't even know he's on the floor, and then he can get 3 or 4 or 5 baskets in a row.
Grant Hill on the mark, and Hill has 8. His first bucket and first points of the second quarter. Wolves with a 1-point lead. Under 5 minutes left in this second quarter. Mitchell thinking about it. 3-pointer on the way, misses. So Mitchell now 3 of 5.
You know, I know that the T-Wolves want to cover Hill with Garnett by himself, but I'm not so sure you don't want to run a second man at Hill and make him give up the ball earlier.
Dumar's off the pick and wanted a foul. Looks at the official, says, come on. Where was it?
He said, you know I had to be fouled. I wouldn't miss it that bad.
Marbury can be a streaky shooter as well. Lately, he's had his shooting woes from beyond the 3-point arc, but he's on the mark there, and the T-Wolves have a 4-point lead.
And Danny's shaking his head as if to say it's about time. Maybe the touch is coming back.
He had 102 3-point field goals his rookie year. As another foul is called on Garnett, his second.
See, Grant Hill, Garnett laying too far off of him. Hill has that kind of shooting range, and Garnett, I mean, at the other end, Marbury drains the 3-pointer and says, man, it's about time.
Grant Hill at the line shooting 2. He's got 9 points.
I think a lot of pressure on Hill after the first 2 seasons he had in the league. A lot of people expected him to bring a championship to Detroit, but he's really never had that secondary star with him. Michael Jordan has Scottie Pippen, Magic Johnson had Kareem, and he's really never had that kind of help in Detroit as the Pistons go back to the half-court trap after the made free throw.
Nobody has been more frustrated with Detroit's season than, of course, Grant Hill. He says last year we weren't as good as our record, and this year we're not as bad as our record. Marbury dumps it off to Stanley Roberts and blocked by Brian Williams. Here come the Pistons. Dumars pulls up off the mark for 3.
The Timberwolves got lucky that time because both defenders ran under the basket and Dumars had a wide open shot.
Action moving quickly up and down the floor. Marbury scores it.
And that made three-pointer, Dan, you've seen it happen many times before. It gives Marbury the confidence in his shot. And as you said, a streaky shooter who's on a streak right now.
Marbury now is the team's leading scorer, averaging 19 a game with Gugliotta, who averaged 20 out of the lineup. They need point production from Marbury, and here he is again. He is fun to watch, working on Lindsey Hunter. But at times, maybe the wrap on Stephon as he gets a little out of control.
As he did right there, he's going to throw the ball out of bounds, but it stays with Minnesota.
New York. Coming up on the Prudential Halftime Report, we'll hear from the sharpshooting guard of the Phoenix Suns, Rex Chapman. He has taken and made plenty of big shots in his career.
I'm not afraid to miss. I'm not afraid to be a GOAT. I've played with guys in this league that have averaged 20, 25 points a game, and come fourth quarter, they're hiding from the ball. And I've always wondered, you know, why that is, and that's something I just can't understand.
We'll hear a lot more of Chapman's visit with Peter Vesey coming up at halftime. Right now, the T-Wolves lead the Pistons by 4 as we return to Minnesota and rejoin Dan Hicks, Dan Issel, and Lisa Molosky.
Thank you, Hannah. 2:44 left in the second quarter. The Minnesota Timberwolves trying to snap a 3-game losing streak. A look at the young 21-year-old superstars and their line. 7 points for Stephon, 6 for Kevin Garnett. Garnett with the biggest long-term deal in the history of professional sports. And Stephon Marbury's agent is the same guy who put together the deal for Garnett.
If he doesn't surpass it, Dan, he's going to come awful close.
And Garnett's able to save it and throw it up with a desperate shot as the clock expires, as it already had before Garnett even got it off.
But you know what's amazing about that is here's a young player, 21 years old, didn't play in college, very aware of the situation on the floor, knew as soon as he got the ball, the 24-second clock was about to run out, and he heaved it up, and he's saying to Stephon, don't throw it to me in that situation, you shoot the ball.
Do you think we'll see more players come out of high school? I mean, we've seen some since, but Kevin Garnett, the first player in more than 20 years drafted out of high school. Is it a trend?
I hope not, Dan. He's a very special person, not only in his basketball talent, but in his maturity. I don't think it's a good idea for guys to come out of college early. I'd hate to see it be a trend coming straight from high school to the NBA.
Grant Hill swings it out nicely to Hunter, and Hunter's got 3.
And that's what Hunter made a living on last year when Detroit had such a good record, spotting up. But Alvin Gentry telling us moving the three-point line back has really hurt his team, especially Lindsey Hunter.
Terry Porter way off from 3. Well, Lindsey Hunter's name came up quite a bit before the trading deadline as the Pistons were looking for some backcourt help. He was offered up as trade bait. Nothing happened in the end of it, but this is a Detroit Piston team which went after Kenny Anderson, among others Joe Smith of the then Golden State Warriors, but no deals were made. Marbury drives in, ball is loose, and it stays with the T-Wolves.
There's the three-point shooting from last year to this year, and as Alvin Gentry said, moving the line back has really hurt his team. They're attempting 8 less three-point shots than they did a year ago. You were talking about Lindsey Hunter, Dan. He's a very unusual point guard that he has more rebounds per game than assists.
Hammonds with the assist from Marbury. And he's got 4.
And that's what makes Stephon Marbury so dangerous. If he gets inside, if you single cover him, he's going to score. If you come to help, he's going to find your man.
It'll stay with Detroit.
Stephon Marbury gets to the middle. Brian Williams comes over to help him out. His man is Tommy Hammonds, and Tommy flushes it.
Hammonds was without a team when the season began after 4 years with Denver. Nice shot by Dumars. Hammonds signed by the T-Wolves in November. Less than a minute left in the second quarter. T-Wolves clinging to a 1-point lead. Garnett looking for Porter off his fingertips. Hammonds has it. 10 on the shot clock. As the T-Wolves try to regroup, Porter tries from 3, and he's got it.
Well, we had to get the wind velocity on that last shot. It didn't hit anything, but on that one, Dan, he found nothing but net.
10 points for Terry Porter, whose minutes have continued to increase with Gugliotta out of the lineup. Another 13-year veteran, Joe Dumars. So a little bit of a show here from Dumars and Porter.
And these two veterans saying, young fellas, this is the way you get it done. One shot time for the T-Wolves.
Dumars has matched Porter's 10 points, as this will be the final shot of this first half. Mitchell. Hammonds can't get the follow. Hammonds gets it again, blocked by Williams. They wanted a goaltend, and Minnesota will get it. So a goaltending call called on Brian Williams, and Minnesota gets the final bucket of the second quarter in the opening half and increases their lead to 4 points, 45-41. Another look.
Great hustle by Tommy Hammonds. You'll see he tries to tip it in on a dunk and misses, but quickly comes back, gets the basketball, lays it in, and the goaltend by Brian Williams.
So the Minnesota Timberwolves, with playoff aspirations, looking good in this opening half. The Detroit Pistons, who have won 3 out of 4, trailing by 4. We'll be sending you to Hannah Storm and the Prudential halftime report after these messages. But the Target Center getting treated to some coast-to-coast basketball today. T-Wolves with a 30-26 record. Pistons at 26-30. At this time last year, they were 42-14, and they trail by 4 today.
NBA on NBC.
Welcome back to the Target Center in Minneapolis, where the T-Wolves trying to snap a 3-game losing streak on top of Detroit, 45-41. As you take a look at the leading scorers there, Hill and Dumars for Detroit. Let's now take a look at the Miller Lite halftime stats. Joe Dumars, as you take a look at the 3-point field goals for Detroit, has 2 of those 3 3-point field goals, and the Pistons at the line 8 of 12. And a look at Grant's scoring chart, Dan.
Grant Hill 4 of 7 from the field. You see the 2 lay-ins underneath the basket. Both of his outside shots from the left-hand side of the floor. He's 0 for 2 shooting from the perimeter on the right-hand side.
And a look at the halftime statistics now of the Minnesota Timberwolves. You saw the Pistons 8 of 12 from the free throw line. Minnesota has yet to get there, yet they still lead by 4. And a look at Kevin Garnett's chart.
Garnett is 3 of 8, and that one way out there by half court was due to Stephon Marbury throwing him the ball when the shot clock was about to expire.
So Kevin Garnett with 6 points in the opening half. Grant Hill with 10. Their marquee matchup continues in the second half as we continue with the NBA on NBC in a moment. As we get set for the third quarter with the Timberwolves holding a 4-point lead, let's check in with Lisa Milosky. Lisa?
Thanks, Dan. I spoke with both coaches at halftime. Minnesota coach Flip Saunders, overall very pleased with his team's performance. Most pleased with their work on the defensive end. The Wolves out-rebounded the Pistons by 10. The Pistons coach Alvin Gentry very disappointed in the first half. He said the Wolves had 11 second chance points in the first half. He said they should have that for the game, and they need a lot more production inside from Brian Williams. He said Brian must produce for us if we want to have a chance to win this game. Brian with only 4 points in the first half. Dan?
Okay, thank you, Lisa. As you take a look at the leading scorers for both teams, again, Dumars, the 13-year veteran, and Terry Porter leading the way for the Timberwolves with 10 of his own.
Well, Porter again having to take up some of the slack due to the absence of Gugliotta, and we'll continue to look at our matchup of Grant Hill and Kevin Garnett in the second half. Interesting that Coach Gentry was disappointed with Brian Williams' contribution in the first half. Remember, they came out and went to Brian the very first play, and you felt like they thought they had a mismatch in the low post.
Again, Hunter on Marbury, the point matchup. And down low to Garnett. Double teamed immediately by Detroit. They give it to Mitchell. They kick it back outside to Porter, and he remains hot to begin the third.
And that's pretty ball movement by Minnesota. That's a great way to suppress the defense, is to go inside to the low post, kick it out weak side to the perimeter. You should have a wide open shot every time.
Terry Porter is 5 of 7 with 12 points. And again, Hill working on Garnett. 6'8" against 6'11". Hill over Garnett. Nothing but net.
And you've seen most of this game, Kevin Garnett very aware that the fact that Grant Hill can take the ball to the basket, giving him a lot of room on the outside.
Garnett tied up by Don Reed. And it'll be Reed who picks up the foul. His first.
Let's go back and look at that ball movement. Garnett's going to go low post to Sam Mitchell. Sam Mitchell kicks it out. He knows he's got a wide open Terry Porter, and Porter takes advantage of it.
Terry Porter, 34 years old. First 10 years with the Portland Trail Blazers. His third with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Sam Mitchell is left wide open and makes him pay.
And we said that in the first half, Sam Mitchell, if you give him a wide open look, he'll bury that. He doesn't take a bad shot, but if he's open, he's going to score.
And Minnesota now with a 6-point lead. Grant Hill has come out firing. Misses there. Porter leads the T-Wolves. And they slow it down. Porter again feeling it. That one's just barely off the mark, in and out.
Well, that's exactly what you want to do when you're feeling it and you get on a hot streak. You want to take advantage of it. That ball was about halfway down in the basket for Terry before it popped back out, and the foul goes on Mitchell.
And that is his first. Much slower pace to begin this third quarter than we had in the first half. Williams loses it. And Stephon Marbury with a good defensive play, stripping him of the ball. Stanley Roberts back after Garnett. Good ball movement by the T-Wolves. Mitchell forcing his way in, and Williams with a board. Here comes Lindsey Hunter. Slashing to the hoop, and he is fouled.
Well, that was good ball movement by Minnesota at the other end of the floor, but great defensive recovery by the Pistons, and I think they're going to call a charging foul here on Lindsey Hunter as Terry Porter gets over and gets good position, and the T-Wolves take it the other way.
Indeed, a charging foul and 2 straight turnovers by Detroit. And they trail by 6. Grant Hill now on the veteran Porter. Garnett with a turnaround from 16. Off the mark, Brian Williams clears it for Detroit.
And again, the 24-second clock, Dan, about to expire. Garnett had to take a tough shot.
Grant Hill trying to leave it for Don Reed, and he's fouled.
I think Garnett got the ball clean up top. I think they're going to call it on Mitchell. Sam Mitchell down low.
So Mitchell picks up a couple of quick personals, and Don Reed is at the stripe for 2. Well, next Sunday, the NBA and NBC returns. Another doubleheader starting at the special time of 2:30 Eastern Time with NBA Showtime. Then in Game 1, most of you will see these Pistons take on the Lakers and Shaquille O'Neal. Others will see Gary Payton and the Sonics right back here at the Target Center to take on the T-Wolves. Then in Game 2, Michael Jordan and the Bulls taking on the Knicks. That's the NBA and NBC doubleheader action next Sunday at the special time of 2:30 Eastern Time. Marbury blocked by Reed. Garnett controls it. Swings it over to Porter. Leaves it for Roberts, and he's fouled.
We heard Rex Chapman talking at halftime about shot selection of our young player. And right there, Stephon Marbury got inside so quickly, but he took a bad shot with the defender standing right in front of his face. But Minnesota comes away with the offensive rebound. Stanley Roberts taking it hard to the hole, and he's fouled by Grant Hill, and Roberts will have 2 free throws. Stanley not exactly an outstanding free throw shooter, and the air balls.
Good call on your part right there, Dan.
Well, he's shooting 52% for the year, but he usually does hit something.
Boy, you've got to at least draw iron in this instance, don't you? And he did that time, but
you could have predicted that. The first one was a foot short, the second one was a foot long.
And the T-Wolves still without a free throw this game. While the Pistons are 9 of 14 from the free throw line. Difference of 9 points there, and the T-Wolves, though, still with a 5-point lead. Turnaround by Dumars, and he's got it.
Well, he is so smart. They had the switch, and Stephon Marbury wound up on Dumars. He backed him down, took the shot clock down. Nice turnaround jumper.
Dumars has 12. He's 5 of 8. Sam Mitchell floating in the air. Reed with a board for Detroit. Approaching the 8-minute mark of the third quarter. Joe Dumars. No good from 3. Back up come the Timberwolves.
And now the pace starting to pick up a little more like it was in the first half with Minnesota trying to run the floor.
And Marbury loses the handle for a moment. Gathers it back in. Garnett open, way short. And the Pistons have it again.
Kind of a line drive shot that time by Garnett. Not much arc on that one.
Nice soft touch shown by Brian Williams as he gets just his 6th point of this game. So Alvin Gentry, who expressed some displeasure with Brian at halftime, gets a bucket from him there.
Even more basketball.
We'll take a look at our 3 outstanding young players in today's game. Grant Hill showing his versatility, taking it to the basket for 2 first-half baskets. Stephon Marbury and Kevin Garnett run the pick and roll to perfection. And then Marbury is going to show us his quickness, getting inside and laying it over the hoop.
And in recognition of this look inside the game, the Miller Brewing Company will donate $1,000 to the Thurgood Marshall Scholarship Fund. Wouldn't it be nice for Stephon Marbury to continue to play here in Minnesota with Kevin Garnett? We watched a piece on Kevin Garnett done by Peter Vesey in our NBA Showtime studios, and they could become a little bit like a Stockton and Malone. Longevity, and they'll only get better.
And no question about that. Both of them very young. Marbury playing 1 year of college. Garnett not playing any college basketball, so you know they still have a lot of upside to their game.
Marbury entering the NBA draft after just 1 year at Georgia Tech. Sam Mitchell with a miss. But they could be, if they're able to pull it off, if Kevin McHale and the management here in Minnesota can pull it off somehow. What a cornerstone franchise Marbury and Garnett could be for years.
Right, and especially if you add Gugliotta to that mix.
Dumars with a nice lean-in, and Dumars with 14 points leads the Pistons.
This is a flashback to about 10 years ago. Dumars and Terry Porter putting on a show today.
Garnett has his shot blocked by Don Reed. And Reed will pick up the foul.
And you know, these baskets that Dumars is getting inside are tough ones. Porter all over him, kind of the leaning jump shot. And Joe Dumars gets it to go down.
Detroit on a 7-0 run in the last 2.5 minutes as they've taken over the lead 50-49. Garnett at the line again, trying to provide the T-Wolves with their very first free throw.
And the officials making him tie up his shorts before they're going to let him shoot the 2 free throws. Flip Saunders looking on, and Garnett a pretty good free throw shooter, so they ought to score their first one here, Dan.
And there we go.
At least I knew he'd hit the rim.
Well, look at Garnett's line. 3 of 10.
So unusual for a young player to be such a complete player. I mean, he has assists, he rebounds, he plays defense. He's not just concerned with scoring.
But Garnett picks up his first point since the first quarter. And Minnesota back out in front by 1. 51-50, approaching the halfway mark of the third quarter. Joe Dumars, the leading scorer. Will he get more? And won't get the roll. Brian Williams there with a nice rebound and the follow. So Brian Williams beginning to make his presence felt. He's got 8 points.
And we talked about the advantage that Brian has quickness-wise over Stanley Roberts. He used that quickness to get inside position and come away with the offensive rebound.
And a turnover there as it gets into the hand of Lindsey Hunter, but he does it right back as Garnett takes it away.
Well, there's that wingspan we talked about. Garnett with his long arms up in the air, and Hunter couldn't get the pass over.
We have yet to see Jerry Stackhouse in this third quarter as Garnett misses. Stanley Roberts is there with another miss, and out comes Lindsey Hunter. Joe Dumars spotting from 3.
Joe Dumars is feeling it now. You saw him, even the one that he missed a while ago. He jumped into his defender trying to create the contact. And sometimes even these old players get on a roll where they experience the age of youthfulness.
Joe Dumars has 17 points as Sam Mitchell takes a hard fall to the floor. He landed on his back hip or his tailbone as he got off balance in the lane and was knocked. Brian Williams was called for the foul. His second as a concerned Kevin McHale looks on.
Well, I know what McHale's thinking. He's had a lot of injuries already with Gugliotta going under the knife on Tuesday for bone chips in his ankle. See Brian Williams coming over, and both he and Reed with the contact. Sam Mitchell fell hard to the floor, but he's up walking off the court.
Sam Mitchell, the all-time leading rebounder in Minnesota Timberwolves history. First 3 years with Minnesota, played a stint with Indiana, and then returning again for his second stint here in Minneapolis. The last 3 with the T-Wolves. First came into the league a couple of seasons over in France. Also played in the CBA, so he's been around. Well, NBC tonight, if you have not seen the Oscar-winning picture of the year, the blockbuster Braveheart, tune in tonight on NBC. This is quite an event. Mel Gibson. His passion captivated a woman. His courage inspired a nation. For the first time on network television, it's Mel Gibson and Braveheart. 9 Eastern Time, 8 Central on NBC tonight. I know you don't see a lot of movies, Dan. In fact, what was the last movie you saw? Somewhere back in the mid-70s?
Yeah, the last, no, even before that. Last movie I saw at the movie theater was Old Yeller. But I'm looking forward to seeing Braveheart tonight on NBC.
It'll be just a bit of change of pace from Old Yeller to Mel Gibson tonight.
I think Sam's still a little shaken up. He certainly is taking his time on these 2 free throws.
Well short on the second attempt, and Rick Mahorn, 39 years old, clears it for Detroit.
It gives Kevin Garnett a little shoulder on the way up the court.
Pistons on a 12-3 run and with a 3-point lead with just about 5 minutes left in the third quarter.
And they're going to their hot man. They continue to look for Dumars.
Dumars is feeling it. 19 points for Dumars. His average on the season is under 12.
What's going to happen here is the Timberwolves are going to have to start running somebody at Dumars, because one-on-one, he's eating up the Timberwolves.
That one knocked away by Reed. Joe Dumars has been a fixture in the starting lineup since the middle of his rookie year 13 years ago, as we look at Stackhouse, who checks back in.
And here's Dumars again. Marbury trying to cover him one-on-one. He shoots the fall-away jumper. He came out in 1985, Dan. The Nuggets absolutely loved him, but I had retired, so the Nuggets took Blair Rasmussen when Dumars came out of McNeese State.
A little bit of an error there. Garnett feeling it. And Garnett's got his 10th point. 57-54 Detroit.
And Stackhouse is now back in the game.
And picked up defensively by Anthony Peeler, who has checked into the T-Wolves lineup. Hill working on Garnett. They're going to go to the hot man. Dumars wanted to take that 3. But Marbury was in his face. Doesn't matter. Dumars will fire it up anyway.
Well, Joe's pushing it to the brink now, taking that kind of shot.
Nice penetration by Anthony Peeler. Anthony Peeler, a first-round pick by the Los Angeles Lakers 6 years ago, played 4 seasons with them. And then last year and part of this year as a member of the Vancouver Grizzlies.
And Flip telling us yesterday that he knew he had an offensive game, but Peeler better defensively.
Nice turnaround by Grant Hill, and he's got 14.
Well, Hill is going to have to continue to shoot from the outside because Garnett's backing off. He's trying to keep him from taking it to the hoop, and Hill having some wide open jump shots.
Pistons beginning to heat up, shooting 48%. Anthony Peeler wants the foul. He will not get it. No,
this is a Kevin Garnett shot. Again, this is a shot that he's getting more and more comfortable with. And Peeler with a nice move into the middle and the running one-hander, trip before last.
That was a nice bit of defense by Anthony Peeler, knocking it loose from Jerry Stackhouse. As you take a look at Flip Saunders, known around this league, Dan, as a player's coach, no doubt about it. Not a lot of people know much about Flip Saunders, but as we mentioned earlier, Kevin McHale, the confidence to hand him a 5-year contract here in Minnesota. Dumars with the bucket and the foul.
And Dan, they're still trying to cover Dumars, as hot as he is, one-on-one with Stephon Marbury. If they don't run some help over, Dumars just backing Marbury down, gets him in the air, and now has a chance for the three-point play. But the T-Wolves are going to have to get Marbury some help on Dumars, especially if he gets that low to the basket.
Dumars may want to stick around. He says he will decide at the end of the season if he's going to retire. He says it really depends on who's the coach. He likes Alvin Gentry, and he says if it is Alvin Gentry, that would help his cause of sticking around. But he could set a club record in Detroit. With his 14th season, he would pass Isaiah Thomas and Bill Laimbeer as the most years with Detroit at 14. He's got 22 points, 12 in the last 5 minutes. Mitchell, after taking the tough fall a few minutes ago, driving in aggressively still. Well, we mentioned Joe Dumars at his 13th year from McNeese State, all-time ranked, second in games. Isaiah Thomas, top of most of those categories.
And I believe if Dumars plays every game the rest of this season, he will become #1 as far as games played for the Detroit Pistons.
He will pass Isaiah Thomas if he does play in each of the remaining 26 games. Grant Hill just picked up his 3rd personal. So Mitchell at the line with a bucket gets the T-Wolves within 5.
Mitchell, one of those players that Flip thought he would be able to bring off the bench and give a quick offensive start, but I think he'll be in the starting lineup from here on out with Googs gone for the year.
And like Dumars and like Porter, Sam Mitchell, not a young buck in his 9th year. He's 34 years old. Timeout on the floor, just under 3 minutes left in the 3rd. Pistons now holding a 4-point lead.
BC is brought to you by Miller Lite, who reminds you that anything can happen at Miller Time. By Reebok, creating possibilities one athlete at a time. And by Ford F-Series, the best-selling trucks are built Ford tough.
Well, with Grant Hill in this Piston lineup, you might be surprised who Kevin Garnett said his team was most concerned with coming into this game today.
But, I'm really not worried about the other position, but Joe Dumars always gave us, fits. And a player like that, just gotta, he and Terry be going against each other, so it'll be like old times, So hopefully I can pump TP up to go in this bag of tricks and pull out some of them finals moves,
Pretty nice move there by Jerome Williams.
And it was Joe Dumars who created it, because Dumars ran to the corner and 2 defenders went with Joe because he had been so hot. You see 2 of them, Porter and Parks, there, and that leaves Jerome Williams wide open underneath. And you were talking earlier, Dan, about the comparison between Jerome Williams and Dennis Rodman.
Yes.
If I was Jerome Williams, I wouldn't like those comparisons. He's got a lot more offensive game than Rodman, this guy.
64-58, 2:42 left. I think it was interesting to hear from Kevin Garnett on Joe Dumars. Garnett was in 8th grade when Dumars checked into the league 13 years ago. Porter for 3 off the mark. Cherokee Parks can't haul it in for the T-Wolves. And here comes Stackhouse. Leave it for Dumars from way out. But Detroit gets it back in a fresh 24.
That was a real tough shot for Joe because Stackhouse threw the ball way down at his feet. I think a good pass would have set Dumars up in better shooting position.
The veteran Dumars, every time he gets the ball, you can just feel it. Grant Hill's wide open. And here comes Minnesota. 2-minute mark left in the third. Pistons have taken somewhat control of this game in the third quarter. Anthony Peeler to Garnett. The Pistons wanted a walk, but Garnett gets the bounce.
And that's a pretty athletic move by a young man that's over almost 7 feet tall. And Alvin Gentry still on the officials talking about the walk.
Big wide smile on the face of Gentry. Can't believe Garnett got away with that. Nice steal by Mitchell. Peeler bounce pass to Mitchell. Blocked by Hill. And Hill went down hard. Mitchell went down. But Hill will pick up his 4th.
Nice fast break by Minnesota. Mitchell thinks that he's got a clear shot to the basket, but Hill goes up and throws it away. A lot of contact with the body, but a block up top. Mitchell will go to the free throw line for 2 free throws, and Grant Hill's going to have to sit down with the 4 personal fouls here in the third quarter.
With 1:26 left in the third quarter, Mitchell gets the first free throw. Let's check in with Lisa Milosky. Lisa.
Dan, Kevin Garnett, not the only Timberwolf with a lot of respect for Joe Dumars. Anthony Peeler grew up in Missouri, and he told me before the game that Joe Dumars was one of his favorites. He was one of the original bad boys. He said, I remember watching him when I was a kid. And I said, Anthony, I won't tell Joe that you said that. Back to you, Dan.
All right. Mitchell at the line for chance to get Minnesota within 2. So with Grant Hill in foul trouble, the Pistons now with 1:24 left here in the third trying to hang on.
Grant Hill sat down for 5 minutes in the first half, Dan, and the Pistons scored 2 points while he was on the bench. We'll see how they do now.
Jerry Stackhouse, that's a 2-pointer, and he's on the mark. And the Pistons back out in front by 4.
Stackhouse, who was having trouble with his perimeter jump shot in the first half, the first attempt here in the third quarter, and that's going to be an illegal defense by Stackhouse. The worst thing you can do defensively is to stop. If you keep running and you act like you know what you're doing, they won't call it. But Jerry ran to the middle of the floor and stopped with this confused look on his face, and that was an easy call for the officials.
Well, the first violation for the illegal defense on Detroit. So Minnesota out of bounds. 55 seconds left. Look at Peeler go down the baseline, and he'll draw the foul. Joe Dumars picks up the personal. His first. 22 points for the veteran Dumars. And the Minnesota Timberwolves picking it up from the free throw line in the first half. 0 for 0. Here in the third quarter, they are now 8 of 11. As we take a look at the next 5 games on the Minnesota Timberwolves schedule.
And it's a fairly easy schedule because 3 of those teams, Dallas, Toronto, and Golden State, are way under the 500 mark. And they have Seattle here next Sunday afternoon.
Looking forward to that game. We'll be back here at the Target Center for that one. Again, the T-Wolves in the 7th position in the Western Conference standings. Ahead of Houston, but many games ahead of Sacramento. 7 games.
7 games ahead of Sacramento. It's going to be tough for the Kings to catch them.
Stackhouse leaves it for Williams. Slapped away. Ball is loose. And the other way.
Pretty good defensive pressure down low, especially by Sam Mitchell, who got up high in the air got a little bit of that basketball.
On the floor for the T-Wolves, Chris Carr, Cherokee Parks, Sam Mitchell, Anthony Peeler, and Terry Porter, who finds Peeler. Mitchell with a nice rebound and a nice score. 15 for the veteran Mitchell. This is a game of veteran stars. 9 in the quarter for Mitchell.
And he showed his quickness around the basket to get inside and get an open shot so quick. And we're going to have a foul on Cherokee Parks. And Rick Mahorn. Now, I guarantee you, Dan, if Mahorn was involved, that was the second thing that happened. Because Mahorn, I'm sure, shoved Parks first. He got away with his. And when Parks retaliated, Rick Mahorn goes to the free throw line.
Rick Mahorn in his 17th season, 39 years old, the second-round draft pick by Washington back in 1980.
And you can tell he got away with something right there.
He's got a world championship ring with the Detroit Pistons back in '89. Left for a couple of years with the Sixers and is now in his second year and his second stint with Detroit. They got to get it off. Anthony Peeler has it picked away. And Jerome Williams, that wouldn't have counted had it gone anyway. Now, what a quarter for Joe Dumars. In the first half had 10 points, and in the third quarter alone, 12 points for a total of 22. As we've reached the end of 3, Detroit hanging on to a 2-point lead thanks to the play of their 13-year veteran. Dumars, the story so far for Detroit.
Reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written consent of the NBA.
Dan Hicks, Dan Issel, and Lisa Milosky back in the target center through 3 quarters. Detroit with a 6-point advantage in the third and taking the 2-point lead over the Timberwolves 67-65. And a look at the leaders today. Joe Dumars, 12 of his 22 in the third quarter, getting nice rebounding help from Williams and Hunter. Sam Mitchell with 15 and Garnett really contributing for the Timberwolves. Dumars now getting a break on the bench. Grant Hill with 4 fouls as Malik Sealy connects. Grant Hill still on the bench. It'll be interesting to see how long they keep him there.
Well, I'm sure it'll be depending on how long they can keep this lead. The more rest they can give Hill, the better. But if this game gets tight, Grant will be back in a hurry.
Tom Hammonds has it knocked away by Sealy. And they'll stay with Minnesota with 5 seconds left on the shot clock.
We've seen this quite a few times this afternoon where the shot clock has gotten down to single digits and still not offense.
Marbury forces a wild one up. Hammonds can't get a hold of it, and Detroit has it. Stackhouse pushing it up. In the corner to Hunter. This for 3. Hunter's won't go down. Stanley Roberts gives it over to Marbury. Anthony Peeler finds some traffic down the lane. As you take a look at Grant Hill, picking up his 4th personal in the latter stages of the third quarter. Malik Sealy just called for the foul, his first.
With this lineup on the floor for the T-Wolves, they're going to have to look at Peeler to bring them some offense.
He gives it over to Marbury, who scores it. And Marbury has 9 points on the afternoon. 69-67 Detroit. Under the 11-minute mark left in the game.
And without Hill out there to really run the offense, Detroit runs a much more pattern conservative offense and trying to get it inside.
Mahorn off the mark. Jerome Williams had it for a second, and it's knocked out of bounds, and it'll stay with Detroit. Much to the chagrin of this crowd, they thought Detroit knocked it out. There was a look at Jerome Williams in his second year out of Georgetown. An emerging player for Detroit. Sealy gets the board, and Detroit with another 24.
Can't give up offensive rebounds. That'll get you beat quicker than anything.
Rick Mahorn from the baseline in and out. Hammonds has the board for Minnesota. Stanley Roberts pulling his way against Mahorn, loses control of it. So some lackluster play here to begin this final quarter. Jerome Williams with a wild flying hook, but on the second chance he gets it down.
And we talked about his rebounding, particularly his offensive rebounding. Last game out against Cleveland, 8 offensive rebounds, Dan. It's because he's so quick back to the basketball.
Jerome Williams, a college teammate of Don Reed. Minnesota turns it over again. Stackhouse, can he take Anthony Peeler? Pushes his way in, and he's called for traveling. So another turnover by Detroit, but they're hanging on to the 4-point lead with 9:22 left.
On NBC is brought to you by Prudential, bringing strength and stability to America's families through insurance, healthcare, and financial services. By the irresistible taste that makes you say, did somebody say McDonald's? And by Honda, vehicles designed to help simplify your life.
Detroit with a 4-point lead. Before we resume play, let's check in again with Lisa Miloski. Lisa.
Thanks, Dan. I've got an interesting piece of Minnesota Timberwolves trivia. Rick Mahorn was Minnesota's first expansion pick back in 1989, but he refused to play in Minnesota. He never reported to camp. He was eventually traded to Philadelphia. Dan?
Lisa, I'm surprised you didn't try to convince him of the benefits of life here in the Minneapolis area. You being a Minneapolis native. Tom Hammonds loses control, and once again another turnover, and a whistle stops play and a double dribble called on Brian Williams.
And that's what happens when you let a big guy handle the basketball. Once you get it, just stop and make sure you get it to somebody who can dribble it. A turnover for Detroit. Remember Alvin Gentry complaining about the second chance points in the first half by the Timberwolves, and Alvin must have gotten the word across to his team. 11 second chance points in the first half, only 2 in the second half.
Kevin Garnett with a nice turnaround. 71-69 under the 9-minute mark now. Pistons with a 2-point lead. Garnett with his first bucket of the fourth quarter. He's got 14.
And Grant Hill off the bench. He's getting ready to report. Alvin Gentry says 2 points is close enough. I'm going with my big fella.
Garnett's having a good game. Along with those 14 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. Williams with a turnaround on Roberts. Wanted a foul and didn't get it.
And he was fouled. There was no question about that. That's why that shot was such a line drive to the basket. Roberts had him right by the wrist.
Well, it's at points like this in games where the Detroit Pistons have not managed to hold on to leads, close out games, as Garnett heats up. Nice turnaround.
Well, they're trying to cover Garnett with Malik Sealy in the mid-range jump shot area, and there's no way that Sealy can get up and contest Kevin's shot.
16 for the 21-year-old. Hunter gets loose from Marbury and makes him pay. Lindsey Hunter with his 7th point. 75-71 Detroit now.
Detroit doing a good job setting screens and having people pop open. Kind of a lost art in the NBA today.
Garnett wants the basketball. Has it. And again, he's working on Sealy. A nice defensive play there for a moment from Jerome Williams.
That time help for Sealy, but here Sealy trying to cover Garnett one-on-one. Kevin just goes up and knocks it down.
6'8" on 6'11". Grant Hill in the lineup. Pistons have outscored the T-Wolves 11-9 while Hill was on the bench. He's back in. He's got 4 personals.
So a much better stint as Lindsey Hunter with a nice move along the baseline gets in for an uncontested layup.
Timeout on the floor. The Detroit Pistons trying to win just their 9th road game of the season. Not good defense there by the T-Wolves. Back in Minneapolis, 7:09 left. The Pistons with a 6-point lead. The 3-point field goal shooting woes of Minnesota continue. 6 of 33 now in the last 3 games. Flip Saunders may need some better long-range help than that if the T-Wolves are to come back. Down by 6. Again, Grant Hill in the game for Detroit after sitting out the beginning of this fourth quarter. The 6-point lead, by the way, ties the biggest lead by either team all afternoon. Again, Joe Dumars on the bench for Detroit, their leading scorer with 22. We have not seen him in the fourth quarter. A foul called.
Foul goes against
Lindsey Hunter.
Lindsey Hunter inside, and Stephon Marbury will go to the free throw line.
Third personal on Hunter, who did not have a memorable first meeting with the Minnesota Timberwolves earlier this year. He missed 11 games in most of January with a right calf muscle, which he tore against Minnesota in the game back in December. (77-73), 11 points for Marbury. It could go along with 8 assists. Joe Dumars has just gotten off the bench for Detroit, getting ready to check in. Jerome Williams down the baseline. Garnett running the floor. Just tips it out to Mitchell, in and out. Here come the Pistons, and they've got numbers. 4-on-1. Hunter to Stackhouse. And he's fouled by Mitchell. Boy, Sam Mitchell's been flying all over the floor today. There's Dumars checking in.
He's been picking himself up off the floor a lot today, and a nice job of running that fast break by Lindsey Hunter. And now Hunter's going to go to the bench as Joe Dumars does check in. But Hunter, with his head up, looking both directions, seeing his options, he goes to Stackhouse, and Stackhouse will have 2 free throws.
He makes the first to give Detroit another 4-point lead. Again, Dumars scoreless here in the fourth quarter, but this is his first action. I guess you got to give the 34-year-old legs a little bit of rest.
Yeah, if you put him out there for 40, 42 minutes, you're going to not get much in return, I'm afraid.
One of 2 remaining Pistons from the championship years of '89 and '90. Shot clock at 5. Mitchell is on the money. And he's having a good game. 17 points for the veteran.
And Marbury created that shot with his quickness. When he tried to get to the middle of the floor, Stackhouse had to help out long enough to give Mitchell a wide open look.
Marbury is pasted to the uniform of Dumars now. They don't want him to have any free looks. Hammonds is working against Hill, and he gave Hill a little cushion, but Hill couldn't capitalize. Stackhouse with a board loses it, and Detroit will keep it.
Well, that's the one thing that the T-Wolves have done all game long, is to stay far enough off the Hill, making him beat them from the outside.
Pistons call a timeout with a 4-point lead with less than 5.5 minutes to go here in Minneapolis. Bring you back to the Target Center. Pistons with a 4-point lead as they inbound the basketball underneath their own basket. Dumars to Grant Hill, who will set things up on top for Detroit. Minnesota with a good home record this year, 18-11 here at the Target Center. Off balance, Brian Williams can't get it.
And Brian got away with a walk, and now he's complaining to the official that he got fouled inside. But a lot of contact and no call. Brian hops with 2 feet, and he was complaining that he didn't get the call.
Did you count 3 or 4 steps on that? Dumars underneath the Grant Hill. Can he get it up? Not among the Garnett trees under there. Hammonds was also there, and Minnesota takes over. Approaching the 5-minute mark, they trail by 4. Marbury looking for a little breathing room around Stackhouse. Hammonds back out to Porter. Over to Garnett, open for the baseline jumper. And Garnett has 18.
And that's exactly what Minnesota has to do to win this basketball game. They can't come down, Dan, and take quick shots. If they work, they'll get an open shot.
T-Wolves within 2. Garnett 3 of 3 from the field in this fourth quarter. Turnaround by Dumars. And he is fouled.
Go back to the other end, and we'll see this. Porter penetrates, kicks it out to a wide open Kevin Garnett, who buries the jump shot.
Garnett just picking up his 4th personal.
And you think Minnesota's aware of Joe Dumars? That time, I think there were 4 Timberwolves running at Dumars when he shot that shot.
Dumars now with his 23rd point, first of this 4th quarter. Again, Dumars came into the game averaging under 12 points a game.
Remember, Minnesota didn't attempt a free throw in the first half, so they have 14 here in the second half.
As you take a look at some of the other scores around the league, the Knicks holding off the Lakers today. Lakers came in here and beat Minneapolis on Friday night. Late in the game, Utah and Houston, time permitting, will be sending you to the completion of that one. And also in the 4th quarter, Seattle up on Phoenix. 81-77 Detroit here. 4.5 minutes remaining. Let's see what kind of shot selection Minnesota gets here. Porter gets Dumars up in the air and draws the foul.
Again, a smart play by a 14-year veteran who pump faked twice and finally got Dumars in the air. Then Terry just threw it up to get the 2 free throws.
You know, we talked with Terry Porter yesterday, and we were reminiscing about he and Joe Dumars. He said he first met Dumars at a college postseason game in Hawaii, and they later on kind of hit it off, both in small schools. Porter from Wisconsin Stevens Point, and Dumars from McNeese State. Well, NBC tonight, again, a reminder, Braveheart comes after TV-censored bloopers of '98, followed by Dateline at 8 o'clock, 7 Central. Then again, first time ever on network television, Mel Gibson stars in the Oscar-winning picture of the year, Braveheart, 9 Eastern time, 8 o'clock Central, big night on NBC tonight.
Big miss by Porter. He's one of the best free throw shooters in the league. He's 9th in the league at 86%.
There was a chance to get Minnesota within 2, but they trail by 3. Brian Williams backing in on Hammonds, and what quickness showed by B-Dub, as they call it.
Well, we thought that they would take advantage of that quickness when Stanley Roberts was in the game, but now Brian Williams being covered by Tommy Hammonds, and that is a mismatch down low for Detroit.
I tell you, Dan, few guys at 6'11" can move that quickly. Mitchell can't get it to fall, follows up his own rebound, goes off the head of Hammonds. He throws up a shot, block, and a foul.
Let's go back to the other end and look at that quickness, Dan. This is unbelievable. This is a big man, and he's going to make a spin move to the baseline and goes right past Tommy Hammonds.
Brian Williams, 6 of 11 and 12 points. Just about has his rebounding average. As we have a timeout on the floor, Joe Dumars discussing things. We'll be right back. Turn to the postseason, but Minnesota in much better position as we take a look at the Western Conference standings. 2 ahead of Houston and 7.5 ahead of Sacramento. Detroit in a much more precarious position. They have to leapfrog a lot of teams, Dan, although they're only 3.5 back of Cleveland.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams between Detroit and the playoffs. They can do it, though. Alvin Gentry trying to get this club to be more competitive on the road.
Gentry, the 5th coach since the '91 season in Detroit. Will he remain the coach? Well, there's a lot still to be decided throughout the rest of the season. If Gentry will stay on as the head coach. 83-78, Detroit with a 5-point lead, 3:20 left. Mitchell, Garnett tried to tip it. Ball is loose, and it will stay with Minnesota.
Well, I know Jerome Williams is an outstanding rebounder, but if he's guarding Kevin Garnett, the first thing he needs to do is put a body on Garnett, not turn and go after the basketball, because if he does that, Garnett will beat him to the ball.
Jerome just 206, 6'9", and Alvin Gentry said he's a good player, but needs to put a little bit of meat on, a little more weight. Mitchell with an off-balance shot in the lane.
And that time, Jerome Williams did a great job of blocking out Garnett. Comes away with the rebound.
Williams sporting the high socks, which have been somewhat of a fashion trend in recent years. Well, crunch time here, under 3 minutes left. Pistons trying to hang on to their 5-point lead. Brian Williams with a turnaround and controlled by Minnesota.
And that's not what Alvin Gentry wants. He sees a mismatch there. He wants Bryant taking it to the hoop, not shooting the fall-away jumper.
Important possession here for the T-Wolves. Marbury working on Hunter, gets his own board, tries to go back up with it, and draws the foul.
And that's going to go against Brian Williams as Marbury, another quick move to get the offensive rebound. He takes the ball in, takes a tough shot. There was a lot of contact on the shot. He goes right back up and gets it, and the foul by Brian Williams.
Just a 9-inch difference in height there as Marbury challenges Williams. Marbury has his 12-point. 3 of 3, perfect from the free throw line for him. And again, he is the leading scorer for the T-Wolves without Tom Gugliotta in the lineup, averaging 19 a game. Both important free throws there that bring the T-Wolves within 3 with 2:26 left.
We're at that point in the game when we're going to see the Stars start taking the shots. A half-court trap by Minnesota to get the ball out of Grant Hill's hands.
Hunter finds Williams with a double pump. Brian Williams is there to jam it home. Brian Williams has come up with some key big buckets for Detroit.
He didn't get much done in the first half, but he's having an outstanding second half.
85-80 Detroit, under 2 minutes left now. Minnesota almost turns it over. Marbury for 3. And a whistle stops play. And that'll be the 5th foul on Grant Hill.
Here's the play down at the other end. Jerome Williams goes up, a tough shot, but watch Brian Williams goes up and throws that down with authority. And at the other end, Tommy Hammonds is going to have 2 free throws. Brian Williams with 10 points and 6 rebounds in the second half.
Crucial free throws here for Hammonds. And he gets the kind roll.
Tommy, one of those veterans who shoots free throws fairly well at 71% for the year. But when the game's on the line, you like to have him up there.
He's got both. 85-82. T-Wolves again within 3. They need a good defensive stop here.
Here goes the half-court trap again, Dan. They don't want the ball in Grant Hill's hands.
Wide open in the middle is Williams. Hill has it. Taking Garnett to the baseline, looking for help. Williams wide open on the post. Misses, and the T-Wolves have it. Trailing by 3, a minute 20 left. Marbury. Hammonds comes up with a loose ball. And it's a 1-point game.
And that's just a look what I found. There were about 4 players on the right-hand side of the basket fighting for the rebound. Tommy Hammonds was all alone when he came up with the loose ball.
T-Wolves getting some kind bounces. Remember the kind bounce on the free throw line that Hammonds had, and then they get the ball there. Able to convert it into a field goal. 5 seconds on the shot clock. Brian Williams forces his way in again.
Well, you like to see that. Brian Williams missed the wide open jumper, but has the confidence to come back and take another tough shot.
The lead is 3. You see the time left in the game. Marbury forcing his way in for the bucket and the foul.
Marbury had missed 2 shots from the perimeter, decides I'm going to take this one to the basket. Nobody comes to help Lindsey Hunter. As Marbury gets all the way to the hoop, Hunter fouls him. A chance now to tie the game.
With 40 seconds left. 16 points for Marbury. 9 in the 4th quarter. Just about a 15-second differential between the shot clock and the game clock, and a timeout call by the Pistons. Big 3-point play turned in by Stephon Marbury to tie it up at 87 with less than 40 seconds to go. In the Pistons huddle, getting last-second instructions from Alvin Gentry. He's had the last 6 points for Detroit. He's the only Piston to score in the last 4 minutes. Tied at 87, 36 seconds left. What do you do here, Dan?
Well, I think you have two options here. You can either go to Grant Hill, who is your star, but he hasn't scored in the fourth quarter, or you can go to your mismatch, and Brian Williams is the mismatch that Alvin Gentry thinks he has on the floor right now. I'd go inside to Brian, see if he gets double teamed, kick it out to the open man.
Here we go. Hunter to inbound, and he's got Grant Hill. Picked up by Garnett. Now they switch off, and Mitchell is on Hill. Hill driving to the bucket off the glass. Brian Williams there for the board, and he's fouled. So Williams will go to the line with 26 seconds left.
So it was the star who got the shot. They went directly to Grant Hill. He takes it inside, but his shot's going to come hard off the glass, and it's the mismatch on the other side. Brian Williams gets the rebound, and he's fouled.
Brian Williams shooting 72% from the line. And the first one is down.
Just like Tommy Hammonds on the other end, Dan, he's one of those veteran players that when the game is on the line is really a better free throw shooter than he is during the regular season.
Trying to give Detroit a 2-point lead with 26 seconds left. And he's got both. 89-87. Pistons on top by 2. Another timeout called. Well, Minnesota certainly has had its fair share of overtime games played this season. Only Milwaukee has had as many, and you can see that the T-Wolves matched the Bucks in those overtime games with 4 wins against 3 losses.
And if you're thinking overtime at this point, Detroit has an excellent overtime record as well. They're 3-1 in overtime games. 26 seconds left to go in the game. And so I think at this point, Minnesota plays for the last shot. They try to tie the score up here, and they're playing for the overtime.
Well, there's one of the options. Kevin Garnett, he's got 18 points. Rick Mahorn, after the Brian Williams free throw, the second one was down. Nice shooting, Brian. Well, now if you're Minnesota, what is your offensive thinking going down to the other end now?
Yeah, again, you go to the guys that have been performing for you all year long. Remember, the last time that Marbury got to the middle of the floor, nobody helped out for Detroit, and he took Lindsey Hunter all the way to the basket. It's either Marbury or Kevin Garnett. I don't think you could go wrong with either option.
Marbury was relatively quiet, at least from a point standpoint. As you look at Brian Williams, who has 18 points, 10 in this quarter, his last 8 Piston points. Marbury has 9 points in the fourth quarter, and as you mentioned, he's been the hot man. Garnett's got 18 points. As you take a look at the leading scorers, Joe Dumars just 2 points in this fourth quarter. He had 22 through 3.
And the other thing that's going to happen is Sam Mitchell, who has been hot today, 17 points for the Timberwolves, will be spotting up. And if Marbury does penetrate and the Pistons help out, he'll be looking for the open man on the perimeter, more likely Sam Mitchell.
Sam Mitchell, who you saw has 17 points, averaging less than 11 points on the season. So he's come up big, the veteran. So here we go. 26 seconds left. Pistons with a 2-point lead in the hands of Stephon Marbury. Just about a second differential in the shot clock. Marbury is loose. Drives the lane, and a nice follow by Cherokee Parks. What a follow by Parks. His first bucket of the game comes with 14 seconds left. And after a nice drive by Marbury, it was Parks who came flying in with a soft tap.
And Cherokee Parks is way out, almost at half court on this play. And when Marbury takes it to the hole, Brian Williams comes over to help. That's who's guarding Parks. And when Brian Williams leaves, Parks has a clear run to the basket. And boy, does he get up and tap that in. What a great play by Cherokee Parks. What happened, though, here, Dan, is that Minnesota went right for the tie. They didn't play for the overtime game. And now plenty of time left for Detroit to come back. And I'm sure that that's the thinking of Detroit. Detroit now will play for the last shot. They'll either win it or go to overtime.
Cherokee Parks, who teamed with Grant Hill as a freshman on the '92 NCAA championship team for Duke, obviously feeling inspired with his school's big win yesterday in the big game against North Carolina, but so silent for much of this game. In fact, he's played just 11 minutes and comes in with what is so far the biggest bucket of the game.
And he was not in the game before they set up that last play, so he was put in the game solely for the offensive play. We'll see if he stays in the game or if he comes out now that the Timberwolves are on defense.
Well, let's check out the timeouts remaining for both teams. A couple of fulls left, each with one full left. A 20-second timeout left for Detroit still. But now it's in the hands of the Pistons, tied at 89 with 14.7 on the clock.
And Minnesota does make the change. Tommy Hammonds comes in for Cherokee Parks as they make the defensive switch.
That's right. Flip Snyder's, thanks a lot, Cherokee, but it's time for you to sit down after making the big bucket. Dumars will inbound it. Jerome Williams, Grant Hill, Brian Williams, and Lindsey Hunter in the Detroit lineup. Porter, Marbury, Hammonds, Garnett, and Sam Mitchell on the floor for the T-Wolves. Shot clock is off. No factor. Grant Hill on Garnett. Locked it and into Brian Williams, loses the basketball, and he's tied up. Hammonds had it on the floor. And it goes to Minnesota.
Brian Williams trying to put the ball on the floor against Tommy Hammonds. Brian will face up, tries to put it on the floor, and Hammonds with a great defensive play gets his hands in, knocks the ball loose. Brian maybe just a little too quick trying to get to the hoop, and Hammonds with an outstanding defensive play. 1.9 seconds. I'm sure that they'll move the ball up to half court here, Dan, but right now Saunders is going to have to come up with a play that is basically a catch and shoot.
Detroit had been taking care of the basketball so well. That was their first turnover in 9 minutes, and it comes against Brian Williams, who really was key down the stretch in the last 4 minutes. Again, the only Piston to score in the last 4 minutes, ends up with a costly turnover there, as it appears that we now might be headed for OT. Still, though, 1.9 left. Joe Dumars, again, with a game-high 24 points, leading all scorers, just 2, though, in this fourth quarter. Again, the Pistons looking for a rare win on the road. Just one of their last 8 road games. And like we talked about earlier just a few minutes ago, they seem to have this game in hand down here in the closing minutes. But like they've done earlier this season, this one has crept away a little bit.
Well, a couple of big plays down the stretch by Minnesota. First, the three-point play by Stephon Marbury, who got all the way in the paint and then picked up the basket and the foul against Lindsey Hunter. And now Cherokee Parks, to this point, the offensive star of the game with 1 basket, is going to come back in. And I think that what the Timberwolves have to do here, Dan, is set some kind of a screen, hoping they can pop somebody open off the inbound pass, because with 1.9 seconds, you just barely have time to catch the ball, turn, and shoot it.
Interesting here, Garnett inbounding the ball at half court.
And a delay of game taken by Detroit, and Minnesota knew it was coming, and they never moved. Jerome Williams jumped out of bounds before the Minnesota players ever moved. So there's really no advantage to that delay of game.
Garnett gets it in. Marbury with a double pump. Never had a chance, way short, and we are headed to OT. So both teams had a chance in the closing seconds. Another look.
They faked the pass out front to Sam Mitchell and found Marbury in the corner. But as you said, good defense, and the ball never had a chance to go in, even with the body English supplied by Coach Flip.
Flip Saunders and the T-Wolves headed to overtime with the Pistons and Alvin Gentry. From Stephon Marbury after he could not connect with a desperation last-second shot, which could have given the T-Wolves the win, but instead tied at 89. Another 5 minutes put on the clock, and the T-Wolves will head to their team record 8th overtime game of this season. Last 5 seasons, only 3 OT wins. This season, already 4.
So that shows the maturity, but as we said, Detroit also good in overtime games. They're 3-1 in overtime, and Brian Williams a chance to redeem himself for that turnover at the end of regulation.
Good record by the Pistons, 3-1 in OT games this season. Brian Williams and Kevin Garnett, the respective centers, to jump it. And it's controlled by Lindsey Hunter and the Pistons. Grant Hill will bring it up.
Hill pretty quiet in that fourth quarter. Detroit's going to need some offense from him in the overtime.
You're right, scoreless Grant Hill was in the fourth quarter. He's only got 14 points. Terry Porter trying to figure out why he was called for the foul. So is Flip.
Yeah, well, what you don't want to have happen is for calls in the overtime to be made that weren't called in regulation, and I think that's the complaint that Terry has. I did that the whole game, and you're going to call that now in the overtime.
Porter had 10 points at halftime. He's cooled off a bit, just 2 for a total of 12 as Dumars backs him in. They swing it over to Hill. Nice move, but can't get it to fall. Hammonds clears it for the T-Wolves.
That was a really tough shot by Grant Hill, who went to the middle and had 3 defenders around him when he tossed it up.
Marbury looking for a little bit of daylight, but nice defensive help from Jerome Williams on the top of the perimeter. Still working on Hunter. Dishes it to Hammonds, and at the shot clock buzzer, Hammonds gets it.
Those are the veterans that we're talking about. Tommy Hammonds, you can set him on the bench, Dan, for 3 or 4 games and not play, then put him in, and he's going to give you that kind of effort. Just a terrific work ethic.
Hammonds has 12. Long one on the way for Lindsey Hunter, and he's got the 3. 12 points for Hunter, 92-91. Pistons with a 1-point lead. Just about a minute and a half into overtime. And a scramble for the loose ball by Hunter. Second personal picked up by Marbury. .336 left. 92-91 Detroit. And we'd like to welcome those of you who've been watching Houston lose to Utah by 6, 106-100. In overtime here, Lindsey Hunter hits for the Pistons, and now they have a 3-point lead, 94-91.
Lindsey Hunter warming up in the overtime. That's the second straight basket. The biggest lead either team's had, 6 points.
Marbury forcing his way in, can't get the bucket. It has been an interesting game, dominated by the veterans early on. Joe Dumars for the Detroit Pistons had 22 points to the first 3 quarters. He's got 24 now. Brian Williams really turned it on for the Pistons late in the game, scored the last 8 points in regulation for the Pistons. In fact, had a chance to win the game, but turned it over. And Minnesota also had a chance to win it in regulation, but Stephon Marbury couldn't get a desperation last-second shot to fall. So here we are in overtime, 2 minutes in. As Porter tries to force it in, And Detroit has it again with a 3-point lead. Now under 3 minutes left. Pistons again looking for a rare road win. This would be just their 9th road win of the season. Hunter pulls up off the mark. And it's Porter who clears it for Minnesota. Marbury feeding Garnett. And Garnett has it. Kevin Garnett with his 20th point.
And such a complete player for a man his size. Went down on the floor and retrieved that bad pass and quickly got up before anybody else was off the floor.
So the two 21-year-old superstars for Minnesota figuring big in this one. Marbury's got 16 points. Garnett with 20. Dumars working on the other 13-year veteran Terry Porter. Turnaround short. And it's Jerome Williams with a nice follow for Detroit.
We talked about his quickness around the basket, Dan, and that time he got to the offensive rebound in a hurry while everybody else was standing and watching.
Stephon Marbury lowering a shoulder and drawing the foul.
Go back and look at this bad pass by Marbury down around the knees of Garnett. But look at how quickly he recovers and gets it back up into the basket.
Lindsey Hunter has just fouled out for Detroit.
There's the offensive rebound and the quick putback by Jerome Williams that has given Detroit a 3-point lead.
So Hunter takes a seat. Jerry Stackhouse is on the floor for Detroit. And the numbers for Hunter as Marbury is at the line with the T-Wolves trailing by 3. Not the time to be clanking free throws.
No, Marbury, remember, had that big 3-point play at the end of regulation when he got inside, made the layup and hit the free throw.
And he can't get the second one to fall, so Marbury, a chance to get Minnesota within 1. Now they still trail by 3, and Grant Hill and the Pistons taking a little time off the clock this time.
Exactly, and there's that's going to be a turnover. It took more than 10 seconds to get the ball over half court.
Taking a little too much time.
That's right. The shot clock down to 13 seconds, so the officials making the call. Too much time in the backcourt by Detroit, and that is a huge turnover. Minnesota was in the half-court trap, and I think that Grant Hill was looking over the defense and didn't realize he needed to get it over half-court.
Minute 35 left. Detroit with a 3-point lead. Minnesota trying to take advantage of that turnover by Detroit right here. Porter over to Hammonds. Garnett now defended by Jerome Williams. Looking for some daylight. Comes up and nails it. Garnett's got 22. And the T-Wolves within 1 as we approach the minute mark of the first overtime.
And there was no play there. Garnett just took the ball one-on-one and scored.
Dumars double team, gets it out nicely to Williams. And Jerome gets it back. Finds a lot of room down the lane, and he's hammered there.
Let's go back and look at the other end. Kevin Garnett just takes Jerome Williams one-on-one, and that's just a great individual move. And on this end of the floor, Jerome Williams got the ball in the middle of the floor the first time, and instead of attacking the basket, kicked it back out to Dumars. Dumars re-entered it, and then Jerome Williams took the ball to the hoop.
Big free throws here for the second-year player out of Georgetown. Now 1 of 2 from the line today with his 7th point. A reminder, next Sunday, 3 o'clock Eastern time, Game 1, Detroit and Seattle, or Detroit and the Lakers, and then Seattle comes here to the Target Center to take on the T-Wolves. And then next Sunday following Game 1, it's the Bulls and the Knicks from Madison Square Garden. 2 big free throws by Williams, and the Pistons lead is back up to 3 with a minute left.
Jerome shooting only 62% from the free throw line.
What a three-pointer by Stephon Marbury. And he's got 19, and we're tied at 98.
Marbury didn't get much done offensively in the first half, but now with the game on the line, Marbury has stepped up big time.
And the Pistons call a timeout. Garnett pointing at Marbury. says, yeah, we may be only 21 years old, but we can dictate the tempo of a basketball game. What a cold-blooded three by Marbury to tie it at 98. The Wolves try to snap a 3-game losing streak, tied at 98 in the first overtime with the Detroit Pistons. A look at the timeout situations. The T-Wolves with 3 full, Detroit with 2, and a 22nd. So now after Stephon Marbury nails the 3-pointer, what do you do?
Well, there's 50 seconds left to go in the game, so there's plenty of time. What you have to make sure that you do is you get a good shot this time down, but you know you're going to get the basketball back. So a 2-for-1 situation for Detroit, but plenty of time, so you don't have to hurry. Again, you have the 2 options, I think. You either go with your star and let Grant Hill take the ball one-on-one, or you go to the other hot man, Joe Dumars, who has been on fire. Kevin Garnett and his teammates trying to play defense here.
You saw Dumars. He does lead everybody with 24, but again, Grant Hill with 14 points has not scored in the 4th quarter or in this overtime period. He inbounds it with Garnett on him to Dumars. 15 seconds on the shot clock, 45 seconds left in the OT period. Dumars backing up on Marbury with a turnaround in and out. Garnett has it for Minnesota. Just about 16 seconds differential between the shot clock and the game clock. Marbury forcing his way in. Off balance shot is good. What a shot by Marbury. He's got 21. And with 26 seconds left, the T-Wolves are back on top, 100-98. So it's back in Detroit's huddle to try to decide how they're going to win this.
Stephon Marbury has in his mind that he's going to go one-on-one all the way. Dumars falls down. Just an unbelievable off-balance shot by Stephon that finds nothing but the net. We'll take another look at it. Dumars going down to the floor. A leaner by Marbury, who has scored 14 points in the 4th quarter and the overtime. He says, I'll put it on my shoulders.
And an even bigger exclamation point, Dan. 5 points in the last 34 seconds. Remember the huge 3 that he hit just prior to that. And really all of this still having the confidence after going 0 for 2 at the free throw line just prior to that. This is a 21-year-old kid who wants the ball in crunch time. You can see it on his face.
No question about it. And now Detroit has 26 seconds to answer, and their star has not scored in the 4th period and in the overtime. Grant Hill.
He'll inbound it again with Garnett on him. 25 seconds left. Minnesota by 2. We're in overtime. Grant Hill to the bucket. Followed by Brian Williams, slams it home, and we're tied at 100.
Well, Grant Hill might not have scored, but he's the one who created that basket, because when he went to the hole, 3 people came at him. Brian Williams there for the rebound. Seconds to go. We're all even at 100 apiece. Grant Hill takes the ball to the basket. 3 Timberwolves come over to try and defend him, and that leaves Brian Williams wide open on the backside, and he makes sure that the Detroit Pistons had tied this basketball game up.
Well, his old coach in Orlando, Brian Hill, said about Brian Williams, he can play like a Porsche or a VW. I think that is the revved up Porsche look by Brian Williams. Yes, can be inconsistent at times, but when he turns it on and gets into the flow of the game and gets the intensity up, not a lot of centers as good as he is.
No, there's no question about that, and he kind of atones for his turnover at the end of regulation with that basket right there. And now it's the Timberwolves' turn, and we'll see if they go right back to Stephon Marbury again.
Pistons already on the floor. T-Wolves taking plenty of time to break the huddle. As you look at Stephon Marbury, and if the moniker ever fits, it fits today. Starberry. He has been sensational. So here we go. 14 seconds left. Tied at 100. Garnett to inbound.
What you want to do here is make sure you get the last shot. Don't leave any time.
And we've got a television cable that has made its way out onto the floor. And the officials quickly rectifying the situation and quickly calling timeout. So we'll begin again. A couple of seconds ticked off. 12 seconds left now.
Yeah, they should put the 2 seconds back on the clock, and I think that's the discussion that's going on right now. Now they've got 1.4. I don't think Flip Saunders wants that. It's 14 whole seconds, and now we've got it right. But what I was saying, Dan, you want to make sure you take off all the time here. Don't give Detroit any time to come back and win the game if you miss this shot.
Well, a player actually kicked out our television cable there. So back with 14 seconds. Here we go. Stephon Marbury. Picked up by Jerry Stackhouse. 5 seconds. 4 seconds. It's going to be Marbury through the lane. And with the miss, Brian Williams clears it, and we head to a second overtime. Marbury had a chance.
Marbury might have waited a little too long before he started. A bump by Stackhouse. No call. And no time left on the clock.
You're right. You don't want to call it showboating because the guy's got a lot of confidence. He's feeling it, but he did wait till the last second. How about a second overtime? Our NBC lineup tonight, TV-censored bloopers of 98, followed by Dateline, and then the big Oscar-winning movie Braveheart, which comes your way at 9 Eastern time tonight. Well, there's been some Mel Gibson-like performances here today by a lot of different players. Marbury has come up big, unable to give the T-Wolves the win on the last exchange, which led us into the second overtime. Brian Williams has been huge today as well. He's got 20 points, 11 rebounds. The Pistons last year in November won a triple overtime game against the Nets.
Detroit Pistons also won the highest scoring game in NBA history in a triple overtime against the Denver Nuggets, 186 to 184. I don't think we're going to get to the 180s today, Dan.
I don't know the way this game is going. As you saw, look at the last double overtime game played by the T-Wolves. So here we go again. Garnett and Williams to jump it at center court. Tied at an even 100 as we head to the second extra period of 5 minutes. And it's controlled by Detroit. They've got Stackhouse, Grant Hill, Jerome Williams, Brian Williams, and Joe Dumars is back into the Piston lineup. Again, Grant Hill has yet to score in the fourth quarter or the first overtime period. And we hear again from Joe Dumars, who now has 26.
Joe Dumars went crazy in the third period. Hasn't done much since then, but gets the second overtime off to a good start for the Pistons.
Dumars had 12 points in the third quarter. Sam Mitchell, another veteran, having a nice game and a nice follow by Hammonds.
Again, nobody from Detroit putting a body on the big people underneath. Tommy Hammonds just walked right in, tipped that one in.
Hammonds has 14 points, 9 rebounds. Grant Hill slows the pace down a bit here. Garnett leaves him wide open, and Grant Hill nails it. Well, his first bucket in a long time.
Garnett, the entire game, has been giving Hill plenty of room, afraid of being beaten to the basket off the quick dribble.
Marbury over to Mitchell. Got it.
Sam Mitchell having a big game as well. Again, if you help off of him, give him an open jump shot, it's 2 points.
Jerome Williams with a nice double pump. Can't get it. Hammonds over to Marbury. Garnett running the floor, and Marbury will set it up, slow it down. .104. Almost 2 minutes into the second overtime. Marbury wanted to dump it off to Garnett. He regains control of it. Regains control again and drops into soft hook.
Well, he is so quick around the basket. You would think a man of his size wouldn't be that quick back to the basketball, but he sure is.
Garnett has 24. And the Pistons take a timeout. You're right, Dan. He has such great soft hands for a big man.
And inside, he loses control, but quickly regains it, misses, goes back and gets his own rebound, takes his time the second time, and lays it in.
Who will prevail here at the Target Center? With 2:57 left in double overtime, the T-Wolves have a 2-point lead on the Detroit Pistons. It has been a wild game. Lots of nice scoring lines to look at. Not one better, though, maybe than Kevin Garnett. 24 points, 12 rebounds. He has 7 assists. He's 3 away from what could be his second career triple-double.
And his first career triple-double came earlier this year against the Denver Nuggets. Just an outstanding performance, one I happened to see. Lisa Molosky tells us from the Detroit huddle that Alvin Gentry says we're playing way too good to give up second opportunities like the one Tommy Hammonds just had.
Joe Dumars fouled by Marbury.
I think Joe Dumars wanted 2 free throws there, but he actually was dropping the ball inside, so it was a foul on the pass.
Grant Hill working against Garnett. That's been the matchup most of the game, and Hill beginning to find his touch again. He's got 18.
Well, Hill's going to continue to shoot that shot from the perimeter till Garnett gets up and makes him put the ball on the floor.
Look at Marbury just blow by Stackhouse on the baseline.
Well, remember, Lindsey Hunter fouled out during the first overtime, and that's a tough matchup. Jerry Stackhouse to stay with the quickness of Stephon Marbury.
Grant Hill again on Garnett, and he schools Garnett. Garnett blocks it away, but he's called for the foul. And another look at that Marbury lightning quick move.
And we'll look at Stackhouse trying to push him toward the screen, but Marbury goes baseline away from the screen. Boy, is he quick, and can he elevate on that jump shot?
Grant Hill at the line. 2 for 4 on the day. As you took a look at Marbury's line. Missing the free throw.
Grant Hill just a 73% free throw shooter. You think with all of his other skills, he'd be a little better at the free throw line than that.
So there is a weakness in his game? Well, he's got 1 of 2, and he's got his team within 1. Just about 3 minutes into the second overtime. The T-Wolves holding on to a precious 1-point lead.
Here's a little half-court trap by Detroit. We've seen Minnesota do that all game after made free throws. The first time we've seen Detroit do it, and now they drop into the man-to-man.
And it's Grant Hill who's on Marbury. He finds a little opening and hits the 3. 26 for Stephon. And he's raising the roof at the Target Center. 19 of his 26 have come in the fourth quarter and the 2 overtime periods. Detroit has not had an answer for him late in the game. 111-107.
Storm in New York. A couple of other close finishes in the NBA today. Here's a look at the scoreboard in our early game on NBC. The Knicks beating the Lakers at home 101-89 behind 32 points from Allen Houston. Utah winner at Houston 106-100. The Jazz 3-0 against the Rockets this year. They've won 10 of their last 12. Seattle surviving at home against Phoenix. Gary Payton had 22 points. Seattle is a league best 44-13. Indiana blowing out Denver 90-63 behind 23 points from Rick Smith. And Atlanta, big winner over Vancouver 101-76, got 20 points each from Mookie Blaylock and Alan Henderson. Now let's send you back to the conclusion of the game at the Target Center with Dan Hicks and Dan Issel.
Well, thank you, Hannah. We think this might be the conclusion of the game, but again, 1:46 left in the second overtime, and the Minnesota Timberwolves with a 4-point lead over the Detroit Pistons.
Stephon Marbury showing a maturity well beyond his 21 years. He has wanted to take the tough shots, and more often than not is converted here at the end of the game.
Been a lot of great games this season, Dan. I know you work a lot with the Denver Nuggets, and you've seen a lot of games this season, but have you ever seen one that's been this good?
I haven't seen one this good this year, that's for sure.
Back and forth. Now Detroit has to answer the T-Wolves surge. Grant Hill is short. Ball is knocked away, and it'll stay with the Pistons.
And I think Stephon Marbury had a chance to go after that basketball, and the reason he let it alone was he thought that it belonged to Minnesota. At the last minute he pulls off. Maybe he just couldn't get there.
So it's in the hands again of Grant Hill. Down low to Brian Williams. Fadeaway jumper is good. And the Pistons within 2, 111-109. Approaching the minute mark, Brian Williams has 22 points. He's got 14 in the fourth quarter, and also since the 2 overtime periods. Terry Porter, the veteran, double pumping in the lane and getting it. 113-109. Porter's got 15. A minute left.
We're seeing an awful lot of people get to the middle of the floor with single coverage. Not much help defensively on either end of the floor right now.
Grant Hill, we'll see if Garnett gives him a little bit of cushion. Instead, Hill over to Dumars. Arcing shot, and it's good. Dumars has 28. Pistons within 2. 40 seconds to go. Terry Porter wide open for a 2. Detroit has control of it.
That's going to go against Garnett. Kevin a little over anxious, jumping on the back of the rebound. Still not in the penalty situation, so 32.7 seconds. Detroit's going to take a timeout.
That is the 5th personal on Garnett. Well, once again, a reminder, next Sunday, 3 o'clock Eastern Time, Game 1 regional action. Most of you will see these Pistons take on Shaquille O'Neal and the Lakers. Others will see Gary Payton and the Sonics take on these Timberwolves right here at the Target Center. Then in Game 2, Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls at the Madison Square Garden. And you know the history of Michael Jordan in Madison Square Garden. You never know what he's going to light it up for in that arena. Check your local listings for the games in your area. It's the NBA and NBC doubleheader next Sunday at the special time at 2:30 Eastern Time. Well, look at that line. The T-Wolves now over the century mark in field goals attempt.
A lot of teams having trouble getting over the century mark this year in points scored, Dan. Only 4 teams in the NBA are averaging over 100 points a game.
A half minute left in the second overtime. Pistons trailing by 2. Jerry Stackhouse trying to get free. Back out to Grant Hill. Had a shot for a moment. Tries to force it inside. Jerome Williams comes up with a loose ball, and he is fouled. So Williams will go to the line for a crucial pair.
Once again, it's Grant Hill getting to the middle of the floor, forcing all the action. He tries to drill it into Stackhouse. Mitchell gets his hand in the way, and thankfully for the Detroit Pistons, Jerome Williams comes a long way with it. 62% from the line, but remember the last time up there, he drilled 2 of them.
We had 2 big ones in the fourth quarter, and the first of 2 goes down. 113-112, Minnesota. This one to tie it up with 18 seconds left. And he comes through again. 113-113 with 18.1 left. We'll go to the benches again, try to figure out how to win it. That's right, Braveheart again tonight at 9 Eastern Time. Don't miss it. It's the Oscar-winning movie Braveheart with Mel Gibson, and there is the complete lineup on NBC tonight, beginning with TV-censored bloopers of '98, followed by Dateline and In the Big Movie. Well, this game ought to get some sort of Oscar-winning performance. 18 seconds left in the second overtime. Pistons and T-Wolves tied at 113, and again, we take what seems like our 20th look at the timeout situation down the stretch. Grant Hill, 19 points.
You would have to think that the way Stephon Marbury has reacted under the pressure, that he is going to be the one that takes this shot. If Detroit runs 2 or 3 players at him to make him give the ball up, he'll just try to find the open man.
Minnesota with a chance to win it. Marbury will bring it up at a leisurely pace again. And again, he waits till 5 seconds are left before he starts his drive. Kicks it out to Garnett, and Garnett wins it. Up, still 1.2 left. 115, 113. But from young superstar to the other 21-year-old. Marbury to Garnett. Garnett hits on it. 26 for him and 26 for Marbury. So the two 21-year-olds matched at 26 points apiece.
Once again, I thought that Marbury took way too long, especially if he was going to try to hit the open man. He tries to penetrate against Stackhouse. Jerome Williams gets too far off trying to help out of Kevin Garnett, and Garnett buries the jump shot.
In this age and day and age in the NBA where we see a lot of grumbling about the huge contracts, and maybe no one, especially a 21-year-old kid, is worth $126 million. He signed a 6-year extension for that amount. But that's the kind of magical talent that the T-Wolves didn't want to gamble on losing had they waited for Garnett to enter the free agent market.
And you know, the thing I liked about it is when we talked to him yesterday, Dan, we asked him about taking up some of the points that Gugliotta's absence was going to need. And he said, you know what? I don't look at scoring points. He said, I know I have to work harder. I know I have to rebound. I know I have to play defense. But somebody else can take Gugliotta's points. What a great outlook on the situation here in Minnesota.
And you just saw Kevin McHale, part of the brain trust here in Minnesota that pulled the trigger to select Kevin Garnett out of Farragut Academy High School in Chicago as the 5th overall pick. And yeah, he's got talent, but still, you know, when you're drafting a high school kid, somewhat of a gamble.
Yeah, and Kevin McHale's got a couple of other tough choices ahead of him because Marbury is going to want the same kind of deal this summer. And, of course, Tom Gugliotta can out of his contract. So he's got a couple of free agents he'll have to deal with, but he's not thinking about that right now.
So let's forget all that contract talk for just a moment and again reflect on how great this game has been. 1.2 seconds left. Detroit still with a chance, trailing by 2 as they inbound it from half court.
Steve Henson in the game for the very first time, and now after the offensive alignment, Minnesota's going to take a timeout. They had a chance to see what had happened here, that Detroit had substituted all small players, and so Minnesota wanted to take a timeout to set a different defense than the one they had coming out of the huddle.
Steve Henson was out there for Detroit. He was activated just on Friday because Eric Montross is on the injured list with an injured knee. Montross will have his knee scoped on Tuesday, so Steve Henson, a journeyman, 5th-year player out of Kansas, was out on the floor.
If I was Flip Saunders, I wouldn't make any substitutions. He's got Tommy Hammonds. He's got Kevin Garnett. He's got people in there quick enough to cover these guards. So I'd stay right with the defense that he had. You know that Detroit is going to run some kind of screen trying to pop somebody free because they've just got, with 1.2 seconds, time to catch and shoot.
Marbury with 26 points, 11 assists, 19 have come in the 4th quarter in the 2 overtime periods. Garnett matched it with 26, 12 rebounds, 7 assists. Maybe he had the game winner just a few seconds ago, but Detroit will inbound it with 1.2 left. And this time, Minnesota calling a time. Nope.
No, it was delay a game. Delay a game to look at the offensive set.
Lobbing it in, and they never got their hands on it. Finally, this one is in the books. In 2 overtimes, the Minnesota Timberwolves snap a 3-game losing streak and knock off the Detroit Pistons 115 to 113. And the road woes continue for the Pistons, who have now just won 1 of their last 9 road games. And it all continues a very frustrating season for them. Let's go down to Lisa Milowski. Lisa.
Well, I've got a couple of very young, great basketball players here. Kevin Garnett, I want to know if that last play, the game winner, was designed for you to take that shot.
Well, first of all, yeah, it was. Steph was supposed to come off, and I knew he was going to find me in the corner. I told him, he told us, right now I'm in like a total shock of words. So, but to sum it all up, Stephon led us to this point right here, and the only thing I tried to do was get a clean look. Luckily, I got a clean look, and I just let it go. I knew when I let it go, it was going in.
And it did go in. Stephon, you had only 7 points at the halfway point. You came on incredibly in the 4th quarter and double overtime. Obviously, you want the ball when the game is on the line.
I mean, it's always been like that since I was younger. Tonight, I just let the game come to me. I was a little frustrated from the last game. I came out a little sluggish tonight, but I waited, and at the end of the game, I took over.
What's in your mind when you're ready to take that shot? You're 21 years old. You've only been in the league a couple years. How do you do it?
I think you just want the fame and the glory, and you think about it. You've been thinking about it from when you were smaller, and then when you get older, the pressure that's contended of you, you just go out and do it. I mean, you just take big shots, and you want to make them, and you know you're going to make them.
Well, you are making them, and you're playing a lot older than 21 years old. Let's go back to Dan Hicks. Dan?
Thank you, Lisa. I would say they are. Marbury and Garnett lead the Timberwolves to a double overtime victory over the Detroit Pistons, 115 to 113. What a game here at the Target Center. Back to you, Hannah, in New York.
Thanks a lot, Dan. Hannah Storm here along with Spider Sally and Peter Vesey. Their comments in just a moment. Some wild games today on NBC. Seattle won a thriller in Phoenix. Houston and Utah went down to the wire. And then Minnesota and Detroit into double overtime. And a look at all the scores of the day. The Lakers lose at Madison Square Garden against the undermanned Knicks, but they managed to hold Shaquille O'Neal to 19 points. Allen Houston 32 for New York. Utah pulled out a victory at Houston, 106 to 100. The Jazz 3-0 against the Rockets this season behind Karl Malone's 21 points and 9 rebounds. Seattle managed to survive at home against Phoenix, 89-87. Gary Payton had 22 points. The Sonics win their 4th in a row. And in the game you just saw, the T-Wolves over the Pistons, Kevin Garnett's baseline jumper, the winner with 1.2 seconds left in the 2nd overtime. Garnett told us earlier today that he and Marbury, who have been friends for a long time, have dreamed of having big moments together in the NBA, and this is certainly one of them.
Oh, definitely. I played with his brother Don. We played the Gauchos, as a little fella did also. But his brother, I'm sorry, Don, you're nowhere close to Stephon. And like he said, he didn't make the All-Star game. He was upset, but he said he'll show everyone why he needs to be on the All-Star game next year.
Everybody's wondering if they're going to have enough money to re-sign this kid after the season or to re-sign Gugliotta when he exercises his option. It's so important for the franchise to keep these kids together. But it's also, to me, important for the league to keep them together so we can all watch them grow, mature, just the way we've watched the Stockton and Malone for all these years, and the way we should have been watching Penny and Shaq all these years. I know about free agency, Hannah, but the league should have a rule. They got to keep these kind of kids have to stay together.
It's great to see them in a situation like this. Each of them had 26 points, and they can negotiate with Marbury this summer, right?
Yes, they can. They have a 3-month window from July 1st to October 1st, and we know Garnett got $126 million, but Glenn Taylor, the owner, is a billionaire. Deep pockets.
Yes, and he set the standard already with Garnett. As we say goodbye, a reminder that we've got another doubleheader, but first a look at the 2 more scores today. It was Indiana blowing out Denver 90-63. Rick Smits had 23 points. Another game that wasn't so close, and that was Atlanta over Vancouver, 101-76. The Hawks getting 20 points apiece from Mookie Blaylock and Alan Henderson off the bench. And yes, we do have a doubleheader next Sunday, starting with showtime at 2:30 Eastern. Regional coverage on our early game. Most of you will see the Pistons and the Lakers. And in Game 2, all of you will see the Knicks and the Bulls in what could be Michael Jordan's final regular season visit to Madison Square Garden. Tonight on NBC, it's TV-censored bloopers, followed by Dateline Sunday. And then for the first time ever on network television, Mel Gibson stars in the spectacular Oscar-winning movie Braveheart. For John Sally and Peter Vesey, I'm Hannah Storm. See you next weekend for the NBA on NBC.
Next Sunday on NBC Sports, Grant Hill leads the Pistons into L.A. to take on Shaq and the Lakers. Or exciting regional action. Then a great rivalry is renewed when Michael Jordan comes to New York for perhaps the final time.